Your kids could get free or low-cost health coverage from Medicaid or CHIP. Even if you've applied before, they may be eligible now. Kids up to age 19 are covered for checkups, vaccines, dentist visits, hospital care, and more. And if they already have Medicaid or CHIP, remember to renew every year. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Don't wanna get eaten by Sharknado. By air, by land, by sea, I see that Sharknado coming for me. I can't run, I can't hide.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Kulturecast. I am editor-in-chief of Culture Shock, Chris Stachiw.
And I'm John Lein, and the Earth was not made for us. She was made for the dinosaurs.
Oh my god. And we are joined again by author Russ Linton.
Hello.
How you doing today, Russ?
Wish I could say I was doing good, but I'm here to talk about some really great movies. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm drinking. I started drinking early.
You seem to always get the pleasure of watching movies that are some of the worst of the month.
Well, yeah. That's in part by design. I do love a really bad movie.
And I do. I agree. I do too. Unfortunately, watching bad movies is a communal experience on the front end. Obviously, what we're doing is the back end communal experience. So I completely understand being at one's wit end with Carnosaur.
Yeah, that's why watching it alone. That's where the depression and alcohol comes in.
So we are right smack dab at the end of the month. We are one podcast removed from the end of Monster Movie Month. This Sunday we're going to be talking about The Mummy and The Relic. However, today we are going to be talking about two films that are special in their own way.
Yes.
The first film we're going to talk about is Carnosaur. The second film, Sharknado. Sharknado, I'm assuming, needs no introduction. Carnosaur, however, is a 1993 science fiction horror film. It was directed by Adam Simon and produced by the immortal Roger Corman. It is somewhat of a mockbuster, similar to what The Asylum does now, releasing a movie around the time that a big blockbuster motion picture comes out. Carnosaur came out a couple weeks before Jurassic Park did in 1993. And Carnosaur has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with Jurassic Park, except for the fact that there are dinosaurs. And that's kind of where the similarities end.
They're not even like real dinosaurs.
Yeah.
They're like
neither
chickens.
are the ones in Jurassic Park.
Well, I mean, that's
like
true,
frogs.
but at least they used dinosaur DNA in Jurassic Park.
No. Not dinosaur DNA, John.
Dino DNA.
Dino DNA.
Well, and in Carnosaur, the main character does at one point say, "Hey, that'd make a great theme park."
Yeah, because they...
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
So they do have that one line in common.
That's true. And Carnosaur follows Raphael Sbarge, who is in Once Upon a Time, and he has voiced some characters in some fairly high-profile video games, KOTOR and Mass Effect. And he plays Doc, who is a security watchman at a equipment, for digging equipment, and he protects it from these environmental activists. And dinosaurs appear from this company. Dinosaurs are made out of chickens.
No, they're not just made out of chicken.
Yeah, they're like crocodiles and all sorts of
you weren't paying attention. So I've got an actual scientific name. It's an Ostriguana vultura saucilrocodile. Urky. That's what
Urky. Urky. Oh, that's a good one.
That's the scientific name.
And the scientist tells everybody that she's like working to make a better, faster, cheaper chicken or something.
Yes.
And she needs crocodile DNA to make chickens lay better eggs.
It's like a super soldier.
Right.
This ties in with our Captain America.
Super poultry.
Yeah, right? So, Russ.
Yeah.
What did you think of Carnosaur?
I thought it was really, really bad. And sometimes that's good. We've talked about that before. You know, you get those really bad movies that are like a pleasure to watch. This one was not really a pleasure to watch. It was pretty bad, in a bad way. I mean, it literally lays an egg, right? I mean, literally does it. So there's like, it's almost like a 4-year-old took a list of plot points or something and strung them together. And they're just dropping them with the subtlety of a brontosaurus shit, you know? I mean, it's just,
Is that a technical
terrible
term? Brontosaurus shit.
Yes, it is.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies. Inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
It is. Well, a corpulite, I guess. That would be a fossilized dinosaur turd. Just to up the intelligence here.
As Ian Malcolm would say, that is one big pile of shit.
Right.
John, what about you?
I liked Carnosaur. Not because it's good. It's just fucking nuts. I mean, at one point the plot does like a full twist reversal and goes like away from the dinosaur thing. It's not just chickens that are turning into dinosaurs. It's like wacko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I, when I read about this movie, I kind of, heard grumblings about what it was about. But I mean, I didn't know the twist. I just saw the poster and I thought, wow, this looks like a movie that looks insane and I've never seen it. And it's about dinosaurs. And dinosaur movies are normally pretty interesting. So.
Yeah, no, not this one.
Well, I think that the twist in this movie is absolutely insane. Like the twist in this movie is fucking nuts. It completely does a hard left turn into like insanity town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a film that starts off about a scientist splicing DNA into a chicken to make a dinosaur.
Not just, like Russ said, not just a chicken.
Oh yeah, no.
No, splicing other DNA into a chicken.
An Ostroguana Volterosicle Urki.
Sickle-dial turkey.
And, this movie had a budget of about $1 million.
Which amazes me.
I mean, it is... I will give the movie credit that it does a lot with $1 million.
This is $1,093.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absurd amount of money, actually, for what you get on screen.
Oh, man. Movies cost a lot of money to make. Bubba Hotep had a budget of, reports vary between 500,000 and $1 million.
Yeah.
And that was Bubba Hotep, in which they did makeup on Bruce Campbell to make him look like Elvis,
which looks awful.
Right, made a mummy, and then filmed it in 3 corridors of an abandoned hospital. And that thing cost almost $1 million.
Yeah, but I could have made this with, like, a VHS... camera and a bunch of ketchup. I really could have pulled this off. My son's got some dinosaurs.
A guy fights a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh, that was straight out of... That was like claymation
Awesome.
Style, man. That was like...
It was just a giant puppet, wasn't it?
I don't know what the hell it was. I really don't.
They did 3 different things, or at least they tried to do 3 different things for the Carnosaur effects.
Yeah.
But they ended up only using 2... and only using one of those 2 really sparingly, because... So, the 3 things were a dude in a suit, which they didn't use because they couldn't get a guy in a suit to do anything sort of realistic movement-wise.
Right.
Right. And so, then they also had a Carnosaur hand puppet, or not hand puppet, but like a remote-controlled puppet.
No, it was a fucking Muppet.
It's a hand puppet.
Totally
There's
Muppet.
a picture of him, of John Carl Buechler, who did the effects. The creature designer, he has it on his hand.
Yeah.
It's a fucking hand puppet.
It's still got like an automation component to it. So
I don't think so.
Control.
I think this was a vehicle for Kermit the Frog's, horror, for his horror stuff. I mean, that's totally what it was.
It says it was a puppet. It says it was a puppet, John.
Like,
okay.
Hi ho,
Kermit the Frog here.
Kermit the Frog
Would you
here.
like to be a human dino hybrid?
You're
This movie is literally what Jurassic Park 5 may end up being.
Yeah, no, totally. But seriously, the Muppet leaps out of the shadows and eats some dude's junk while he's pissing. I mean, it's like, it's obviously a Muppet at that point.
Those are
You
the
can
best
tell.
scenes of any of these B horror movies, though.
He was kicked off the Muppet Show. Maybe he was making advances towards, inappropriate advances towards Miss Piggy or something, or maybe he just wanted a slab of bacon. I don't know. But he got kicked off the Muppet Show and they sent him over here.
I mean, the fact that it's a puppet, when I read that it was a puppet before I watched it, I was like, oh shit. Oh, God. Oh no. The puppet doesn't look terrible.
Yeah,
they use a lot of shadows and
which helps.
to sort of hide it, which is a good idea.
For us, it's just like, you guys are fucking stupid. What are you talking about?
And they also had a 16-foot tall robot that they made.
True.
Which is what fights the skid steer at the end.
No, it's not.
What?
What do they use at the end?
Dude, that ending, I mean, I don't know for sure, but to me, I thought it was the puppet with, like, chunks taken out of it when the machine stabbed it, and then the machine itself was a model that they were rolling around with, like, like kids smashing toys together, and then...
No, you're right. It says it on Wikipedia that miniatures for the Tyrannosaur and skid loader reused for most of the penultimate scenes.
Right,
Nice.
and then they
the full scale was too inarticulate.
Mhm. So then they just shot fucking close-ups of the guy Raphael Sbarge in the machine, shaking around like that, so that it, and then they just cut between the miniatures and the close-up.
Yeah.
It's great. It is so great.
The robot they built didn't get used for any of the movie. Or at least not a lot of it. There might be a couple scenes of it in there. And that might be why you think it feels a little cheap for $1 million budget. It's because they put a bunch of money into special effects that ended up not happening.
Wow, okay. I don't think it would have helped it, but okay.
I mean, you have to take into account that this is a Roger Corman movie, right? You know, this movie isn't being made to be some sort of, I don't know. This movie isn't the next Godfather.
Yeah.
It's just like a low budget kind of, I don't know, weirdo movie. I mean, this is a weird movie.
It's a weird movie. Low budget career killer, maybe you could call it.
I mean, I don't think anyone who was in this movie got their career killed. I don't think anyone who is in this movie, they're known for this movie for their career either.
No, yeah, that's true. That's true. But there was, the girl, she looked so familiar, so I had to look her up. And I mean, she is in like everything throughout the 80s. I mean, all this cultural icon stuff. Jennifer Runyon, she's like in, Who's the Boss and Quantum Leap and, Charles in Charge. I mean, just whole list. And then there's Carnosaur, and it's like, bam, nothing.
Yeah, because she retired after Carnosaur.
Yeah, I guess so. I would have retired after that, I suppose.
And she also played the student at the beginning of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that Bill Murray is like macking on.
Right.
So, I think that she was wise to, retire after this movie. I've made it. I mean, and though to be fair, this movie grossed like almost $2 million. It grossed like $1.8 million.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with a budget of $1 million, I mean, it made a good amount of money. I don't know if people were confused. Well, I mean, I liked this movie. I say like, in not a, this movie is so awesome. Like, this movie is nuts.
Right.
It's actually an insane person's film. Because, I mean, we haven't even talked about it yet. So, at one point, Raphael Sbarge's character, Doc, meets the crazy mad scientist, Tiptree, played by Diane Ladd, who coincidentally is Laura Dern's mom, who plays Ellie Sattler in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And you find out that Doc finds out that Tiptree is infecting people with a virus that turns women into wombs for baby dinosaurs. And it kills them as soon as they're born.
Right.
Yeah, something
because
which was
she's
tested on
breeding
chicken
out
first?
mankind
Yeah.
to give the Earth back to the dinosaurs.
Jesus Christ.
And, the prospect of that is fucking insane.
Yeah, it is pretty insane. I can respect that. I can respect her evil, scientist commitment. Where she, takes her manicured nails and rips open her Snuggie for the cesarean or whatever the fuck was going on there. I mean,
her own cesarean.
that was pretty insane. And as a matter of fact, that scene shares something with Sharknado because both of these have interspecies cesareans. Both of these movies.
Oh yeah,
that's very true.
So huzzah!
The connection has been found. I mean, this movie it's low budget. I had to watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. I couldn't find anywhere else either. And as a matter of fact, I watched it twice because the first one I watched was in Italian. all Italian.
Watch it all the way through.
Yeah, and I was
Italian?
like, this might improve the experience. So I watched the whole thing all the way through in Italian. And then I found the English version and I watched it. And yes, watching it in Italian does actually improve the watching experience. I must say.
That is impressive that this movie was even translated to Italian.
Well, and the funny thing is, the English version that I found had Italian subtitles. This must be a big thing in Italy. Maybe this is where they made up all their fucking money, right? All these Italians going crazy over this. It's a Carnosaur! We got to watch a Carnosaur! But yeah, the subtitles were hilarious because even though I can't speak a damn word of Italian, I could tell that they were trying to, like, make the movie make fucking sense in the subtitles. It was hilarious because there were a few times where they put in, like, that corporation name. They mentioned it early before anybody said it in English on the screen.
Eunice?
Yeah.
Eunice. What a fucking dumb name.
Just weird.
What a not intimidating name. Eunice.
Yeah. So it was interesting to see them both. I hate myself for doing it, but I did.
You know, there are parts of this movie that I like, though.
Okay, explain.
Okay,
The ending?
well, that, I was gonna, first I'm gonna say, Ned Bellamy as Fallon, the like, government guy who's working with the FDA and the military and the corporations to, like, tear down legislation on genetically GMOs and shit, essentially.
That's the table humper dude, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's
Like,
so messed up.
every scene he's in is actually, I found it pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't see why the FDA has to test it anyway. It's just, I mean, they don't have to test radishes and they don't have to test cows, so why do they have to test a cow with some radish DNA to make the steak juicier? It's like, oh man, government overreach.
I'm surprised you guys didn't like Harrison Page as the badass sheriff.
I did.
Who gets, like, destroyed.
Jesus.
That was the other thing I was going to say.
That was so terrible.
And the fact that his wife and 2 little daughters are sick with the virus,
Yeah.
which suggests that his daughters probably birthed dinosaurs.
I mean, he dies, though, so...
Right, so you don't get to, like, it doesn't
but you're
explicitly
praying. You're kind of praying for him to die, though. I mean, he shoots the dinosaur, and then he, like, it's laying there, wounded, and then he fucking straddles it and talks to it. You're like, kill him already, dinosaur. I mean, he's proving he is the lower species here, you know? You need to take that opportunity and kill him.
And then the dinosaur just, like, foot claws through its gut.
Yeah. It was like, he actually gives him a new asshole. I mean, the dinosaur just, like, it's up and through the front, and he's dead, and you're like, Darwin moment right there.
Or Clint Howard, who's in this movie for all of, like, a scene.
Clint Howard. Which one was he?
Ron Howard's brother. He was in the diner as, like, the guy in the diner just, like, eating.
Oh, yeah.
Eating sloppily.
Uh-huh.
He's literally in, like, what, one scene of this movie?
2 scenes, because after the diner... Or no, wait, I think there are 3 scenes, because he's the same one shutting up the chickens in the back of the truck for whatever reason at the beginning, and then they show him in the diner, and then later he's back there with the chickens by himself with, like, a freaking KFC, 15-piece meal bucket in his hand, and then the dinosaur head comes down, or, bites his head off. So yeah, he's actually got 3 scenes.
I also like that everybody in this movie is constantly eating chicken.
Oh my god.
And
well,
the
they're
joke
constantly
is that-
eating something.
No, it's almost always chicken. There's KFC, you got chicken salad. There's KFC twice. One guy has chicken fried steak. Like, and even the sheriff and his family are making eggs.
Right, true.
And I just thought that was a funny joke, considering that the thing that's killing them is a chicken turned into a dinosaur.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I mean, it's this weird food obsession throughout this movie. And it's kind of like in Troll 2, where they've got that weird, like, okay, well, the trolls are really vegetarians. They just got to turn you into plants so they can eat you.
They love popcorn.
Yeah, and then the whole popcorn scene. I mean, it's just so over the top. You're like, oh my god, this is amazing. With this, though, it kept going, and it like I said, it was like a 4-year-old or something, like, oh, I can make a movie now, and like trying to throw stuff together and make it look like they're foreshadowing or make it look like they're doing something cool with the plot. No, you're not.
Does it bother you, Russ, as an actual writer, to know that this movie is based off of a novel?
Oh, really?
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
You guys didn't know that?
No. Don't tell me that. What was the author named? Chuck Tingle? Was that his name?
The author's name was John Brosnan. And he was writing under a fucking pseudonym.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is amazing. I had no idea. No idea.
But apparently the guy who wrote the book, John Brosnan, he like sent the first draft to Hollywood and then he like just disappeared off the face of the earth. So they're like, well, we'll just do whatever we want then. Because I mean, like the book takes place in like London, in like the rural countryside of England, and you know. Can we talk about the ending of this movie?
Wait a minute. Before we talk about the ending.
Shit.
Yeah, we can talk about the ending now.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, there's like nothing else to talk about. We talked about the twist. We talked about the time that the raptor bites that dude's dick off.
Yeah, that was insane. It was the Muppet. I really think that was Kermit the Frog in costume. I'm pretty sure.
Kermit the Frog on a fucking bad hair day.
I think I'm kind of surprised Coke didn't sue them. Did Coke sue them? You guys have any of that?
Not that I know of.
Everybody's drinking a Coke in this fucking movie. You didn't notice that? It's like every table they show, there's a Coke on it. The big boardroom table, everyone's sitting around, there's a Coke. They're sitting around their situation room talking about, you know, with the military, and there's like a Diet Coke and a Coke sitting around. I didn't know it was like product placement or what the hell was going on, but
yeah, I mean, maybe that's how they made their budget.
Yeah, would they really agree
that this was a Blueberry Pie funded movie? Blueberry Pie with goat embryo.
With goat embryo.
Blueberry is coated in goat embryonic fluid to keep it preserved.
I don't even know how goat embryonic fluid preserves anything.
It doesn't. It's just random bullshit gross science.
I don't know how human women lay fucking dinosaur eggs either.
Well, that's the real question. Is it human women or is it humans in general?
It's human women.
It was women, although at the end, the guys who weren't getting sick, they had them start getting sick, I guess, just so they could wrap up a plot thread or something.
Well, I mean, they had guys coughing and stuff, but I got the idea from the dialogue that the scientist wiped out an entire race of, like, pesky bugs by making it so that the female bugs of the species couldn't birth new babies.
Right.
And I got the impression that they were saying that she was doing that to humans, which means that she would have...
What did she think was going to happen? I mean, like, she infected herself, so she was just, like, on a suicide mission to bring dinosaurs back.
Right.
Yeah,
because dinosaurs would treat the world better than we do.
Right, because they'd be all peaceful and happy or something.
Except for when they're trying to kill people.
Yeah, she said at one point, right, except when they're ripping out of your womb or trying to eat you. They're peaceful and happy.
And I also, one of my favorite things, other than the ending, which we will get to, is the fact that this movie's called Carnosaur.
Right. Yet
there is a Deinonychus, a Carnosaur, a Raptor, and a T-Rex. And I'm not even sure that there is a Carnosaur in the movie.
We already discussed this, right? We went over this. We already know the scientific designation of this shit she created.
No. I was talking about, if we're looking at the creatures that they create in the traditional dinosaur zoological sense.
Right, no, sure.
There is not a Carnosaur to be found in this film.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's like calling the movie The Mummy and it being vampires.
Right.
Okay, well, you kind of missed the boat, because Deinonychus is like a little, tiny little thing.
No,
and then
you're thinking of Compsognathus.
No, I mean, you know, it's only like a couple feet tall. It's not like a velociraptor.
No, but it's like 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah, but I mean, a velociraptor is like 10 feet or some shit.
That can't be right.
Or something. I don't know. I am not a paleontologist. Okay, I do not claim to be one either. And apparently the people in the movie didn't consult one. And there's a T-Rex and a Deinonychus, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no Carnosaur to be found.
Right.
But she says that the Carnosaurs are going to take over the world.
No, that's true. That's true. And we have no clue whose womb that T-Rex came out of, because that would have been a fucking mess.
That's a big womb.
Maybe isn't that the one from the beginning? The very first one that hatches out of a chicken? They just grow super fast?
I don't think they ever caught that one, did they? I don't think they caught it because they were still looking for that.
The T-Rex was like in a rave, wasn't it? Like in that weird green laser room?
Oh, yeah. That was kind of cool. That was trippy.
Like light halls?
And then they wander into the stereotypical mad scientist set that looked like it was in someone's garage.
It probably was somebody's garage.
It looked like the family in the neighborhood that puts on the Halloween haunted house every year.
Right.
And that's what it looked like.
Yeah, got the smoke machine going.
Got some weird bowls with stuff in them. So let's talk a little bit about the ending. So Raphael Sbarge fights a T-Rex in a
bulldozer
forklift type thing. Yeah.
Okay, well it's a bobcat. Which again, it's the whole movie. There's so many different little things where they were just trying so fucking hard, you know, because the whole time they've been trying to blame this on bobcat attacks. Oh, maybe it's a bobcat, and they're like, oh, we've never seen bobcats around here. I mean, it's fucking Nevada. There are bobcats all over the goddamn United States. What do you mean you've never seen a bobcat around there?
I didn't.
But they're trying to blame it on them.
A bobcat later.
Yeah, and then later it says bobcat. You know, that's the machinery.
I mean, I figured that whole ending sequence was just a total, call out and rip off of Aliens.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. This guy watched Troll 2, he watched Aliens, he dropped some shrooms, and then he wrote
heard
this
of
script.
Jurassic Park. He heard of the idea.
Yeah.
So Raphael Sbarge fights the T-Rex in the Bobcat, which would have been actually more interesting if he had been in a mechanically controlled Bobcat.
Yeah.
And then the military comes in and is told to sterilize their community to stop the virus from spreading.
Yeah.
And Thrush, because that's a name of a character in this movie,
right,
played by Jennifer Runyon, dies from the virus. And then Raphael Sbarge is kind of comforting her. And they break into his trailer and just fucking shoot him. Just shoot him dead.
Yeah, he's like, the cavalry's here. And they open the door and immediately point rifles at them. And he's just like, no.
Yep.
And then they light him on fucking fire.
Yep.
They do. They burn his ass to the ground. Yeah, this military is pretty efficient, which is pretty surprising. Because most of these movies, they're not, right? I mean, they're off track. They don't know what they're doing. These guys, they got a mission and they know what they're fucking doing. You know, the guy they drag out of the station wagon. I mean, not just one of them, all 8 of them drag him off, and they're standing around shooting him. So he's dead. He's really, really dead. They're doing a good job.
This is like Return of the Living Dead military. They're just burning this shit to the ground.
Right.
We're just gonna nuke it. Fuck it. And obviously they didn't do very well in stopping the dinosaur plague from spreading, dinosaur virus, because there's a Carnosaur 2.
Awesome.
And 3.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that one.
And 4.
I haven't watched that one.
And 5.
Well, and again,
I didn't know there was a 5th
they
one.
were talking about using synthetic wombs to keep the human race going. So in this movie, at least, they made it sound like the government was like, well, wait a minute, maybe this virus thing's not so bad after all. We'll just have a bunch of wombs to continue the human race.
I got that it was just those guys. I got that those guys were like, you know what? We could just start a new civilization. Let the dinosaurs wipe out America, and we'll start over as
forget
God.
it. We'll make the whole United States this will be a sausage fest. We'll have just some synthetic wombs we're jizzing into, and we'll be done with all that.
Oh my God, a fucking sausage fest. It's the military for you.
Yeah, it's totally military.
So there was a Carnosaur 2, then there was a Carnosaur 3, and it was subtitled Primal Species, Then there is a Carnosaur 4, which isn't technically called Carnosaur 4. It's called Raptor, but the subtitle or the kind of alternate title for the film is Carnosaur 4 Raptor. And then the fifth one is just called The Eden Formula, also known as Tyrannosaurus Rex. And that's Rex spelled W-R-E-C-K-S. And that movie was made in 2006.
Wow.
Oh, man.
That is amazing.
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
You know what? That shit is...
And it was directed by the guy who made the puppet for the first movie.
Who made the Muppet?
Yeah, the Muppet.
The little hand puppet.
The Moopet.
Okay, we got to do this dick eating take again. Come on.
It's got to bite its wiener off. Oh.
Take 5 on that one. Come on, guys. Let's get this right. You're not getting chafed down there, are you?
And, kudos to them for making a successful dinosaur movie a couple weeks before Jurassic Park came out and them actually making money.
Yeah.
Beat
True.
Jurassic Park to the punch.
Yeah, Jurassic Park, totally not one of the best movies ever made. Carnosaur, relatively unknown. I got to speak with Raphael Sbarge about it, and we'll play that interview here in a minute, but, I was asking him questions like, yeah, I don't remember. I was like, I probably tried to block it out of your memory. Because it's, 20 plus years ago now, 22 years ago.
Yeah. And this is a good one to block out. His character was, he did get to play like the coolest of the coolest guys and of the coolest people ever. He's got leather, he's got denim, he's got a do-rag, fingerless gloves, he smokes and drinks at the same time. He's a badass.
Rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
Yep.
That's a good line, though.
Yeah,
I gotta give it up. That's some good screenwriting. This movie came out the same year as Freaked, John.
Really?
Yeah, 93.
You know what I want to know? I want to know if Diane Ladd and Laura Dern, called each other while they were working on their respective dinosaur movies and compared notes.
Wow.
I don't know. Diane Ladd was only on set for 5 of the 13 days that this movie shot over. This movie was shot in 13 days. That, in and of itself, is impressive.
Yeah, that's amazing, especially for this $1 million budget you guys keep talking about, which I still don't really believe. But
I'm just telling you. I'm telling you what happened. It was shot over 13 days, and Diane Ladd was there for 5 of the 13 days. Excuse me, 18 days.
Wow.
5 days. Still, 13, 18. It still was shot in less than a month.
That means most of this went into props and editing, is what you're saying. Most of the money, that's where it went.
And probably gear for cameras and film.
Or salaries. Maybe Jennifer Runyon, on her hot 80s, 90s streak or whatever, demanded like $800,000 for the role or something.
The real kind of draw of the movie is Diane Ladd, right? Because she's like a very well-known actress. She was in all kinds of stuff. She was in Chinatown. And then she's in Carnosaur.
Yeah, and somehow she's actually still acting after Carnosaur. So, that's pretty impressive.
And she was in Christmas Vacation as well.
But who gets a script and it's like, okay, so you're a mad scientist in a Snuggie and you need to rip your own womb open. Who gets that and goes, oh yeah, okay, that's cool, I can do that.
Me.
Oh boy.
That shit sounds
yeah,
fun.
it's a wacky movie, that's for sure. And again, I think that the only reason that I would suggest anyone watch this movie is because it does have this kind of crazy left-hand turn.
I guess.
Russ, don't watch this shit.
Yeah, no. I'm not recommending this. I'm not recommending this at all.
So before I ask you guys, watch it, skip it, and your favorite performance. Rotten Tomatoes is something we've started doing, Russ. We look at what Rotten Tomatoes has to say about the movie, and we kind of give our thoughts as to whether or not it's true.
Okay.
So, John and Russ, what do you think the Rotten Tomato meter is at for this movie?
15.
Rotten Tomato meter?
Like
yeah,
what?
it's like it's a percentage meter.
Can I measure this in like a metric fuck ton of Rotten Tomatoes? Can I do
It's
that?
like from 1 to 100. It's from like 1 to 100.
Oh, okay. 1 to 100. I'm gonna call this one at 5.7.
It is at 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Damn.
Jesus, that's amazing.
There is no critic. Well, it's 11% out of 100.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Well, you're expecting it to be 0.
It's still amazing. It's still
and
amazing.
there is no critic consensus for it. However,
Did critics watch this?
yes, Gene Siskel of Siskel and Ebert gave the movie a thumbs up.
What? Oh my god.
God bless your soul, Gene Siskel, but man, you are a fucking troll. You, sir, are a fucking troll of trolls. Oh my lord.
This must be one of those things where he knew somebody in the movie. You know, he couldn't bring himself to like really rip into it.
He was a really big fan of Diane Ladd. He's like, God, I feel
Exactly.
so bad for
Yeah.
her.
She did such a great job.
As a woman who birthes a fucking velociraptor out of her womb.
Playing a crazy scientist.
Yeah. All right, Russ.
Yeah.
So skip it, watch it, and best performance.
I'm gonna say skip this one. I'm gonna give my best performance to Alfred E. Newman. He's at the very beginning and at the very end, and and he ties the whole movie together.
Oh man. What about you, John?
I'm gonna go with watch it. If you're, like we said, this is one of those movies that I think would be super fun to watch with other people making fun of it.
Who hadn't seen it before.
Right. I think watching somebody watch this movie would be the best part. Best performance, I'm gonna give it to Ned Bellamy. Because like I said, his parts are actually, like, funny. I liked him a lot.
And this is something we've talked about, and the news broke on the site yesterday about us working with the Alamo Drafthouse at the beginning of next year.
Yeah.
Doing monthly specialty programming.
Congrats.
Thank you. We're really excited about it, but I would totally pick this movie.
Oh man, watching an entire theater of people at Alamo Drafthouse watch this film.
Yeah.
But oh Lord,
I might actually be in on that.
And maybe having like Raphael Sbarge and Adam Simon there to just be like, we know.
Oh, I don't think they would show up.
I mean, if you paid them enough, they might.
Well, yeah, that's true. If you paid them enough, they might, but I don't think they'd want to even revisit this. It would be painful.
I mean,
for them,
I talked to
sure.
Raphael Sbarge about the movie.
Yeah.
So I am going to suggest this movie to watch it. I think it's, it is more or less it's kind of a ripoff of Alien in some respects. It's like Alien with dinosaurs.
It's Alien with dinosaurs, and it's got these weird, just a little flavor of Troll 2 in it as well, with all the weird food and like this kind of like hippie Save the Earth vibe thing, which gets completely twisted.
It's got some weird named characters too. Tiptree and Thrush.
Yeah.
Well, Thrush is the name she gives herself because she's an environmentalist nutjob.
Yeah. It's supposed to be, I guess, the type of bird and not the, like, crotch rod or whatever.
Oh my God. I was really hoping one of us would mention that. I was hoping and waiting. I wasn't going to say it. I was going to let one of us say it. For best performance, I'm going to go with the Deinonychus puppet.
Yes, Kermit. It's Kermit, I'm telling you. He needed the money.
Because he really gets a chance to emote.
He really needed the money. I think he went into some kind of weird dinosaur porn phase after that, but he really needed the money then.
It's what Kermit looks like when he was doing meth. He's kind of got that like meth skin. Hey, man. So as I mentioned, I spoke with Raphael Sbarge about Carnosaur, awesome. Along with some other stuff that he's working on now. So We'll play that interview, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about Sharknado. So how did you get involved with Carnosaur?
Carnosaur is one of those movies that kind of comes along and you audition for it. And I remember meeting the director on it, Adam Simon, who's a great guy. And he had this vision of this movie. It was, let me just sort of put it this way. I guess the simplest way to sort of describe what Carnosaur is by describing, the producer who's, infamous for doing, really sort of silly movies. And of course, the kind of the man who's sort of given so much work to so many people, but Roger Corman.
Right.
And his infamous studio of sort of, B movies has obviously employed a small army of people who are doing quite well in Hollywood now. Ron Howard and Clint Eastwood, and the list is gigantic, and they've written huge books about it. But this was one of those movies, and the funny thing about it is that it had Diane Ladd in it, the mother of course, the star of Jurassic Park.
Right.
And, of course, on the other hand, I don't know if it was intentional, if it was just sort of synchronicity, but however it worked, we came out, weeks around Jurassic Park. And I understand somewhat anecdotally that Carnosaur was one of the highest grossing movies that Roger Corman ever had as a result of that. Because obviously everyone went to see Jurassic Park, and then they were all hot and bothered to see more dinosaur movies, and he just happened to be in the theaters, and we caught that wave. So I know that they went on to make a Carnosaur 2 and a Carnosaur 3, without me, only because I died, of course, at the end of Carnosaur 1. But so it was a very successful franchise for Mr. Roger Corman.
They actually went on to make Carnosaur 4 and 5.
Wow!
They're technically spin-offs. They don't have the name, but I mean, that to me is kind of insane on top of everything else that this kind of.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the New York Times Review, when it came out, basically said that they were very impressed with the, I think they said the $2 million budget and how much they were able to achieve. If we had, $700,000 or $800,000 to make this movie, I'd be surprised. And, it was about that. I think we shot it in about, 18 days, maybe less. We worked on average, somewhere between 16 and 20-hour days,
wow.
Most days. And there was a funky, really gnarly kind of studio that we shot a whole bunch of stuff in Venice, which is now, of course, because Venice has become so, Venice, California has become such hot real estate. But at the time, I guess Corman had the studio over there. And I mean, it was really, it was like some kind of funky school basement,
Right.
And we shot it there. And that's where he turned out these movies, like a sausage factory. There's actually a funny story. There was it was one of those nights where we had gone, after 12 hours, you're supposed to get a second meal, right? So
right.
They have this thing where they're supposed to bring you out food. So it was probably around 14 hours, because again, no one was really paying attention, and we were all sitting around and, starving, and the craft service table, which is where the actors usually get some food. Usually it was a couple of rotten potato chips and a stale bagel. Basically, that's kind of all that was there. I mean, there was nothing, right? So some PA had gone out at some late night, probably AM, PM kind of mini mart type thing, and got one of those big box of kind of, week-old hot dogs, right?
Oh,
and they were wrapped in, tin foil. And she walked around and was sort of, handing them, sort of almost literally like throwing them at you, right, as she passed. And one of the actors in the film opened it up and turned to this PA and basically said, "I'm a vegetarian." And the PA, without missing a beat, turned around, reached over to her hot dog, slipped the hot dog out of her bun and said, "There you go,"
oh my
and
God.
walked off.
gives you an idea of the sort of the kind of the glamour of Hollywood of making Carnosaur.
Right. So it sounds kind of like every other Roger Corman movie, filming wise. I mean, success wise, like you said, this movie had more success than some of his other films because of kind of the serendipitous release around the time of Jurassic Park.
Right. And it was kind of it's a quirky, interesting, idea that he played with the chickens and, the eggs and the whole thing. And it's pretty dark. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of my next question is had you heard of the book that the film was based on before you were cast as the main character?
He had mentioned it. Adam had mentioned it, but he kind of it was not necessarily made available to us. He sort of, Adam had sort of said that he had kind of been inspired by something, but had gone off and kind of done his own thing.
Gotcha. So you play Doc in the movie, and you're an alcoholic security night watchman for the equipment, for some digging equipment.
Right. My favorite line, which is funny because I've done a lot of things before and since, and I generally don't remember lines.
Right.
I generally have sort of I only have so much RAM, and I delete it by the time I'm done. But I remember a line from this, which is my favorite line, which is he's sitting there as a night watchman drinking, and he looks up and he says, "Better a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy."
Oh yeah, and I think that's actually your first line in the film.
Is that?
I think so.
I have to rewatch this movie. I haven't seen it.
It's a wacky movie. Because, I mean, even though it did come out around Jurassic Park, the film itself has nothing to do with Jurassic Park. Like those ideas that they talk about. And I think that's kind of what sets it apart in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it wasn't trying. I mean, I think it genuinely was not trying to be a Jurassic Park ripoff, right?
Right.
I think it was its own unique dinosaur movie. Completely, far field from that, and maybe, again, and I think dark and twisted, and very violent, and I think, obviously scratched some kind of itch again in this dinosaur conversation, right?
Right.
But yeah, it wasn't derivative. It was just maybe in the zeitgeist,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and dinosaurs were very in vogue in the 90s, so especially because of Jurassic Park, obviously. So.
Right. It's kind of like vampires. You wait 10 years and they all come back. Right?
Yeah, totally. And maybe that's kind of what's going to happen with the upcoming new Jurassic Park movie is that's going to become a thing again.
I'm sure it will.
Maybe we'll get a Carnosaur reboot. I don't know. I'm skipping around a little bit, but I'm really curious as to what your thoughts are on the idea in the movie that the main villain, played by Diane Ladd, is making a virus to make women give birth to dinosaurs. I mean, was that?
Yeah, it's so twisted, right? I mean, it's just a twisted story, and then the whole, it has sort of a combination of kind of alien and some weird sort of future scientist thing, and it's just so, I mean, again. Here's the thing about Roger Corman, right? Is that this is a guy that made Death Race 2000 and, I don't know, a host of other sort of, zombie attack movies and, any number of things. The thing that's kind of, I have to sort of say honestly now, I sort of consider it sort of a quirky badge of honor to have been in one of these movies. I mean, obviously I've done so much else, and at the end of the day, to have gotten a movie like this feels kind of, I don't know, kind of like I feel like I'm a part of history, having been in his lineage of goofy titles. But what they were able to do is kind of create this kind of very mad, twisted, almost sort of like a sort of a 1950s or 1960s horror movie,
right.
with a sort of a dark, twisted kind of, clod of fiery doom, and dread. And I it's, like I said, I haven't seen the movie in a long time. It's funny to me that, of course, that it's come back, but I remember when I saw it being sort of more sort of taken with its sort of quirky, interesting. I don't know. I mean, I know horror movies and things tend to sort of be very popular, but in this case, I feel like this was sort of a movie that had some kind of a, with now what we know about genetic, how we can basically begin to sort of design, we are technically now at a place where we can begin to design the children that we want, right?
Right,
and
right.
And also now we know about DNA, and how with a piece of DNA, with cloning and various sort of scientific advances that have occurred since this movie was made, kind of begin to kind of point up some of the, the science this is all based on, and it kind of makes it, I don't know, sort of dark and interested and kind of twisted. So, it's a good Saturday night anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, I had never heard of the film going into looking at films for our monster movie month. So when I saw that it was a 90s dinosaur movie that wasn't Jurassic Park, I was like, well, this sounds awesome. So, and again, I think that the really inspired part of this film is the fact that it isn't just like those Asylum films are now, where it's, a blatant ripoff of Jurassic Park. This movie is trying to do something very very different.
Yeah. I mean, what did you make of it? I mean, what's your sense of the darkness of this movie? Or I mean, did it hold your attention? I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked your character, because your character isn't just the typical shining star of the community good guy. He's kind of just like, I don't even know what's going on. I've fallen for this this environmentalist, and I'm trying to protect her, and I just kind of going along with what's happening. And when all the stuff starts happening with women giving birth to dinosaurs, my reaction was like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, I had no idea that that's where this film was going. No idea in the world, because it doesn't give, before that scene happens, and this is, I want to ask you about this scene, the scene where you are standing with Diane Ladd's character, and the woman is going into labor, and she gives birth to a dinosaur egg, apparently. I mean, I was just like, I don't know, what? So, I mean, I'm curious, what was it like filming that scene?
I mean, you're given a set of circumstances as an actor, and it's your job to somehow make it as real as possible, right? So, Diane Ladd was a very interesting woman. We had lots of wonderful talks, and I really did. I thought it was kind of a. As I said, because we were so sleep deprived anyway, and then we had to shoot tons of nights, so you get upside down with your sleep. Everything is a bit of a blur, but I remember somehow we were able to make it somehow make it work. But it's definitely kooky, and it has that kind of grainy, filmy kind of like, I don't know, like creepy thing going on, and the way they shot it, and I remember loving Clint Howard in this movie, because I thought he was so fabulous and disturbed, so yeah, I mean, we somehow, hopefully we carried it off, but it definitely was a quirky one for sure.
Yeah. So actually, that's kind of leads into my next kind of set of questions is, questions about your co-stars in the film. What was it like, working with, Clint Howard and Harrison Page and Diane Ladd?
Yeah, well, Harrison and I were friendly from elsewhere, and he's a great guy, wonderful actor, and we had a good time. Again, Diane Ladd is, just a wonderful actress. Done some extraordinary things in her career, and my God, Chinatown and things that she's been a part of. So she's sort of movie history, things that she's been a part of. And so fun to work with her. I think we were all kind of, like, hey, wow, we're doing a Roger Corman movie. There's a sort of a, I don't know, there is a camp fun about the fact you have to sort of surrender to the fact that you're doing a Roger Corman movie. Clint Howard is great and just funny and out there, and couldn't be a nicer guy. And obviously, he is that sort of one of a kind kind of character actor guy. It's like you always, that's him. That's that guy. And so I really enjoyed him. And then of course I had a bunch of scenes with Jennifer Runyon. So she and I had a good time together. So I don't know what's happened to Jennifer. I haven't spoken to her in a long time. But I don't know that she's done a lot since then, actually. But we had a good time together.
That was actually her last film before retirement. So.
Oh, okay. Okay,
yeah,
well, there you go.
That's what I through IMDb. Obviously I'm, being a movie nerd. IMDb's trivia page is, unless I can actually get to talk to the people, that's as close to the trivia, as we can get. So.
I just looked her up. She's married to Todd Corman. I wonder if that's Roger's son.
I would. Oh, yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
That is that's Roger Corman's brother's son. So.
Oh, okay, very good.
Yeah. So there you go.
Very
Maybe.
good. All right. So she married into the family. So
yeah. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts on the end of the film and kind of that whole situation with your character and like most of the characters dying in the film. When you were on set and you read the script, was it kind of like, okay, this is, what was kind of your mindset going into that, final scene of the film?
Remind me which scene, because again, I haven't seen it in a few years. So
right. So at the end of the film, your character and Jennifer Runyon's character are in your trailer, and you have called the military, and you're expecting them to come save you, and instead they show up and shoot you, just like absolutely like lay into you with assault rifles, and then they light you on fire. Because I'm assuming you're infected with the dinosaur virus,
or that I have information about it, or it's just one of those kind of like kind of things, right?
Yeah. So I'm curious, kind of what your take is on the ending of the movie and kind of how that factors into the feel of the overall film.
Well, it just the whole thing is kind of has a sort of a nihilistic kind of a vibe to it, doesn't it? I mean, it's kind of it's just sort of dark and twisted, and it gets rather more dark and twisted. And then I guess what that does is it leaves it clearly left it open for him to do more, or to be able to create kind of a sense of this sort of ominous force winning. I mean, if I'm representing sort of the thing that was trying to sort of stop the bad guys or the dinosaurs or this terrible thing happening, and now I'm gone, obviously then the potential for this to creep back or come back, double strength, is strong. I didn't have, of course, any say in that ending.
Right.
And obviously, that's part of what they were looking. Clearly, I'm not sure if they had planned to do the Carnosaur 2, and I don't know that Adam was a part about it, Carnosaur 2, but obviously the success of it is what led to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 12, whatever, how many more they've done. But I think it just adds to the creepiness of the whole thing, And what is perhaps interesting about it is that it's, as they say, not essentially a Hollywood ending, right? I mean, Roger Corman clearly had his audience, and his audience, wasn't necessarily looking for those big buffo kind of, everything kind of works out happy in the end.
Right.
I did another movie called Risky Business years before that, and it's interesting because in Risky Business, the last scene of that movie was a very dark ending, and apparently, this has been discussed, so I'm not breaking any news here per se, but Risky Business had a very dark ending in the original screenplay, and the producers, kind of David Geffen, who was one of the financiers, really went to bat to sort of say no, it has to end on a happy note, and it did, and of course the movie went on to sort of do quite well. But that's a Hollywood movie, right? In this case, you have sort of a very dark, twisted little movie, and it basically stayed dark and twisty and ended, with everything kind of being bad. So I think that's kind of, again, speaks to what the confidence that this producer, that is Roger Corman, has with what what he knows he could do and what he can get away with, and the audience that I think that would ultimately find it.
And those kinds of endings have kind of become more popular now, especially with the advent of the found footage films, where most of the time the characters all die. So, I don't know if Carnosaur set the standard, but the fact that the movie just says, screw it, all the characters are going to die. I think that's pretty, like you said, that's pretty ballsy. Because, your character is quite sympathetic throughout the film. He's kind of just thrust into this situation without any choice. So. Right.
He's an unsuspecting hero for sure. Right. Like,
yeah.
How did I get here? Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So. I mean, again, that's what's sort of fun and quirky about it, and that's what's sort of fun about having been a part of it. And then I remember I came out of it and went right into a play and after that, and it was a surreal transition because shooting nights, working ridiculous hours, in that very sort of with dinosaur eggs and very quirky, dinosaur props and things like that. It was kind of, it's wacky.
Right.
It's definitely wacky. But I would say, we have, I don't know, here we are still talking, here we are talking about it now over 20 years later.
Right. So that's actually something I was really curious about, was what was it like shooting with those, the puppets? Because those were glorified hand puppets, correct? I'm assuming.
Yeah, there was one. I think there was one. Hold on a minute. I'm trying to remember because I did another movie with dinosaurs called My Science Project, and that one was actually fully, it moves, had sort of it was a mechanical thing. This one I think was just kind of went up and down. I think it was one that was of life size, and there's a lot of interesting. Some things you can do at night if you light it correctly and hopefully it looks okay.
Right.
But there's a yeah, I mean it's goofy. It's goofy. It's one of those things where, look, I'm a trained actor. I've done lots of Broadway shows. I've done classical theater. I've been at the Kennedy Center, and I've done lots of very sort of actor things, right? Meaning kind of like, I've got street cred as an actor. I was on Shakespeare in the Park. But you train and train and train and train, obviously for moments where then you have to then somehow get out there and make this stuff kind of as real as you can, because there is literally nothing to support you.
Right.
It's you and your imagination. You know what I mean? So at that point, you just hope you can carry it off. And I there was enough there, obviously that we could connect to, and enough there that we had, so that it didn't seem entirely ludicrous. But I guess that's maybe for you to judge, enough for me.
Well, I mean, for the effects that they were, I mean, they were, puppets and, physical effects. I think in a lot of the shots in the film, it still looks pretty good because of the way that the film is shot, because it is kind of grainy and, it's not very well lit, which I think helps, like you said, shooting at night. I think that really helps with the believability, because if it were on a full lit set, yeah, I think there'd be problems. So I'm kind of got a couple more questions, but I'm also really curious about the scene at the end of the film where you are fighting a tyrannosaur with the skid steers, with the giant kind of construction equipment. What was it like filming that scene?
I remember that. They basically put me in a crane, and then the crane guy gave me sort of a brief lesson, and we just tried to kind of do enough of it so that you could figure it out. It's a surprisingly complex thing to do, a crane, because it's like operating a hand, right?
Right.
But somehow it I don't know. I think we got enough of it so that it kind of worked. I remember being kind of like, wow, there's all sorts of moments shooting a movie like that where you go like, wow, I can't believe what I'm doing.
Right. Like fighting a giant dinosaur with a construction equipment.
Right.
Which I'm not sure if that's supposed to be kind of a subtle nod to Aliens. Now that I think about it.
Oh, that's interesting.
I hadn't even thought about that because I mean you're fighting, you and Jennifer Runyon's character are fighting a giant T-Rex in like forklifts pretty much. So it's something. I mean the movie itself is just, again, I can't stress enough how kind of surprised I am at how kind of just off the wall the movie is. So I mean it's really, I mean the whole dinosaurs giving, like people giving birth to dinosaurs, I mean that's not at all what I was expecting from the film when I sat down to watch it, which sitting down to watch it, trying to find it was a hassle in and of itself, unfortunately, because I think I think that it's out of print in DVD now.
Oh, it is. Okay, very good. Well, maybe it will find a resurgence because of our podcast.
I hope so. I mean, I really would like for people to kind of watch this and be like, wow, this is a crazy movie. Because, I mean, there are a lot of movies nowadays that kind of fly under the radar for 10, 15 years, and then they get picked up by the midnight crowd, and the midnight crowd thinks that, there's, things to, quote about the movie, or, they pass it along to their friends as, hey, have you seen this? And there's some wacky stuff in this movie. And, I think that this movie takes itself seriously, not enough for it to be like, oh, these people were trying to make some like serious dinosaur movie. Like, right? I'm assuming that this was just fun.
Right. It walks that line, right, of being sort of, I don't know, wacky and camp enough without being sort of jumping the shark, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, you've seen it more recently than I, and I'm glad to hear that. And I think that's probably what, at its best, I think that they had aspired to.
And if you get a chance, you should totally hunt it down. I mean, there are ways to watch it.
I have a copy, like in a box of stuff. I wonder if it's on DVD or at this point if it was on VHS still. But I do have a copy of it, so I should definitely watch it.
Yeah, because again, I really like your character in the movie, and it's just and it's also set in the Southwest, which is pretty cool. I don't know where did you guys actually. You filmed it in? Were the outdoor shots? Were they just filmed in outdoor in California, or?
Yeah, we were in Santa Clarita. Way up north in kind of the canyon country where there's nothing else going on.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's or of course, as I said, in Venice in that funky metal studio. But yeah.
Right. So after you were done filming Carnosaur, did it have any kind of, tangible effect on your career? I mean, did it kind of put more eyes on you as an actor?
I don't know if it did. I mean, I ended up, as I said, landing this play, and this play that I did ended up going to Broadway. So I think I was more sort of focused on my theater stuff at that point. But what I found, honestly, is, shy of you sort of landing in the next Avengers movie, which has happened to some friends of mine, and overnight suddenly you're, red hot in a certain kind of way, where, there's all sorts of opportunities for you. I've somehow been able to find a way to just keep working consistently, which is, for those of us who, and I've done this for a really long time, I started when I was 4 on Sesame Street, right? So here I am, over 4 decades later, and I'm still working, and I'm, I have sort of I guess at a certain point, you just say like a body of work. People know, like, oh yeah, you can do that. I don't know that starring in Carnosaur necessarily made an appreciable, gave me an appreciable bump. Because I think, again, just working in a Corman movie is already kind of a, it's its own universe, right? But that said, in the scope of kind of as you look back at like all the things you've done, it has kind of a kitsch additional coolness to it, just because because of Roger Corman, because of the how infamous he is, and how how infamous he's become, and how many of kind of the Hollywood lineage of just really great filmmakers and actors and writers and directors have come out of that that sort of that training ground. It's kind of a cool thing. So I think maybe it works better in the maybe it works better sort of in the look back of it, like, oh wow, and he did that too. I think that might be the biggest value.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a kitschy, like you said, it's a kitschy thing. It's cool. I mean, I think it's awesome. Anyone who gets to work on a Roger Corman movie because of just everything that he's done for the kind of, he was making indie films before indie films were even a thing. Indie horror films. I mean,
right.
When it comes down to it, Carnosaur is really an indie horror film, and indie films weren't exactly like what they are now. So I think that's awesome.
Totally. I mean, I was telling that hot dog store to a friend of mine recently. He was like, and he said, God, I can't believe it. You're in a Roger Corman movie. So, yeah, I mean, I'm doing a Stephen Bochco TV series now, on TNT called Murder on the First. We're going into our second season. I've been, regularly and irregularly on the show once upon a time. Recently I've got a new movie coming out called By Way of Helena with Woody Harrelson and Lynn Helmsworth, which is a Western. So that's what's going on now, a couple of decades later. But this is a cool kind of toll booth in the sort of series of kind of things one gets to do in a career. I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Right. So actually, you kind of answered my next I guess my kind of final question for you is, do you want to kind of go in depth on any of the things that any of your projects you're working on now?
I mean, I just sort of point to, in this case, Murder on the First, which is on TNT. It's one case over a whole season, and I play a detective. It's a again Stephen Bochco show, and it's got a wonderful cast: Taye Diggs, Kathleen Robertson, Emmanuel Trichy, and it's a really good show. It's really well produced. I'm really proud to be a part of it, and it premieres June 8th. Then By Way of Helena, which I mentioned, I think Lionsgate just picked it up, so it'll probably be out sometime this year, and we'll hear more about that soon. And I mean, I've just been able to keep working, and that's again I'm really happy about. I had someone stop me the other day, and he said, like, you're that guy. You're that guy who like this pops up everywhere. He said, you're like the Where's Waldo of actors. So I feel like these different films that I've done, or the different TV that I've done over the years, it's fun when they come back, or then you find it again. We had a 30th anniversary of Risky Business about 2 years ago, and that was fun too to kind of revisit that, and whatever happened to that Tom Cruise guy.
Right? What's he up to these days? I don't know. I haven't heard anything about him, right? I do kind of have
so much promise there.
Right? Yeah. I am kind of curious, though. Do you enjoy working more on TV or on movies or, doing live theater? Since you've kind of spanned all three, obviously, in your career.
Yeah, honestly, it's what I like most is actually going between them. Having the opportunity to kind of work in all those mediums is just fantastic. And I've done obviously some voiceover stuff on video games. That's a blast. And I have had a voiceover career that's also interesting and quirky and different. I mean, the films that we get to do are have in Hollywood kind of more cachet, perhaps. But many of the films that are being made now are more tentpole movies, and the smaller kind of cool indie movies are honestly now being made on TV. I mean, some of the stuff that's going on Netflix and some of the stuff that's going on some of these alternate networks and cable channels are incredible. I mean, It's incredible. They're incredible casts, beautifully shot with very complex stories, and this is kind of how film has kind of evolved, I think, into what is now sort of a golden age of television, which is what everyone talks about. But it's really true. I mean, there's just so much that you can watch.
And I think film is, at least with, and you kind of mentioned Marvel, but I think Marvel is trying to adapt to that episodic, the kind of the huge success of these episodic TV shows by trying to make sort of an episodic film universe that is similar to a TV show. I mean, at the end of the day, that Marvel Cinematic Universe is almost somewhat trying to replicate a TV show in a way. So.
Yeah. I mean, also obviously the way we get to watch television now with this sort of long form storytelling, where a show is created and then you get to watch, hours and hours and hours of these characters and really kind of go deep with them.
Right.
That's really fun too. Obviously, so if you like watching movies, it's a great time. I mean, movies have become, it's so much more accessible. What's out there, you can watch it on, a plethora of devices, and there's just a lot of great artists out there working. It's a very exciting time to be working as an actor.
And like you said about TV is really coming into its own, especially with Showtime and HBO and Netflix, all kind of getting to the point where TV isn't the second fiddle property or second fiddle thing anymore. So it's really
that's right. And look at all the huge movie stars who are working, in television because they see that as well.
Right.
So I think that's really cool. So I'm honestly, it's wonderful not to be stuck in one or the other. To be able to go back and forth is ideal.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, really very, very grateful for that.
And I guess my last question is there any upcoming voiceover work for any video games you're working on, or is that kind of?
Not at the moment. I'm out there, talking to folks, but nothing has quite transpired at the moment. So the stuff I've been doing is I did a whole bunch of stuff for National Geographic, which has been kind of fun, doing narrations of films for them. But I haven't done any video games lately, and I would love to do more.
So no Mass Effect 4 yet? No return of...
Mass Effect 4 is actually in process, and I think they're probably going to... You'll hear... It won't be called Mass Effect 4.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be in the universe. And maybe they'll bring some of us back as sort of in a postcard to the fans, but I would imagine they're going to create a whole new universe because we all kind of blew up at the end of that as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be... this is a whole new universe to discover. But I think that that's for sure ahead. And I love BioWare. They're an incredible company. I've done a lot of work with them. And they are, a AAA company, and I would do anything to work with them again just because they just turned out such amazing work.
Yeah, because, Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect were both made by them, so... Right,
and some of the Star Wars games as well. So, yeah, they're just great. I got the privilege of being taken to the studio and walking through it, and it was... They love what they do, and They are very passionate about it, and they're really good people, and they really listen to their fans. So it's not. Yes, it's a big business, but these are very passionate people who care about the product that they put out, and you really feel that when you're there.
Because most people my age, are video games. We kind of grew up with the second wave of video games, and we know you from your video game work, if not by face, but obviously, Mass Effect and Knights of the Old Republic, those are games that are big deals for people that are into movies and video games, especially because of Star Wars. And then Mass Effect I don't even think we need to, it's just a small game franchise, not a big deal, right? But totally like one of the biggest games ever made, so...
Again, I'm really proud to be part of it, and it has this worldwide following.
Yeah.
It's just astonishing how many people, the tweets I get from all over the world. It's just astonishing. And while I know, it sometimes sort of cuts down the middle for, men and women who, either go with the hot chick or with the character that I played, Kim Malenko, in Vermeer, you have to make a decision, right, as to who you're going to keep.
Right.
I've had so many apologies from the fact that I got killed.
I'm sorry, I had to kill you.
I was like, dude, it's fine, man. It's cool. I still got paid. It was cool. It's all right. Don't worry. But I know a lot of people said it was a tough decision. But regardless of that, there seems to be a lot of people who, really engaged with this character Caden and love him, and so that was fun. The writing in Mass Effect was really cool because it was really character based and not just a lot of running around shooting. I mean, we did plenty of that, but there was a lot of really complexity there, and that made it so interesting. And apparently, the Mass Effect series was interestingly is responsible for bringing more women into gaming than any other game before it. And I think it's because some of the complexity of the writing, again, the relationships.
Right.
So that's what's so cool about what they did.
So I'm assuming that when you did the voices for your characters in the video games, did that kind of put you in a different spot fan wise? I mean, were people who were previously coming up to you maybe for other stuff, were they like you're your character from KOTOR or from Mass Effect, Kanelenko? Was that kind of a new thing for you? People just being like, I know you from your voice.
Yeah, I mean, I go to some of these conventions. I raise money for charity by going and meeting people and sometimes signing pictures for them, and I've met so many people who've come up and shook my hand and said, I can't tell you how much that game meant to me, or how I was going through a tough time in my life, and that was the most important relationship to me at the time. Any number of things like that where there's just a lot of outpouring of sort of love and affection for the character and for the games, and it's fun to meet those people.
All right. So, big thanks to Raphael Sbarge for sitting down and talking about Carnosaur with us. So let's move on to Sharknado. It came out in 2013. It is about the civil rights movement, obviously. Features Ian Ziering, Tara Reid, John Hurd, and it was aired on the Syfy channel. It's also written by Thunder Levin, who I got a chance to speak with about the movie. And it has spawned 2 sequels, and it has been the most profitable thing that Syfy Channel has ever done in regards to anything, period. Like I said, it spawned 2 sequels, and they've come out in sequential years. So Sharknado 2 came out last year, and Sharknado 3 is actually coming out in like a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. And yeah, again, it's about it's not about civil rights, obviously. It's about sharks in a tornado.
The tagline for the movie is Sharknado, enough said.
Right. So, Russ, what did you think of Sharknado?
I think it's great that Syfy can step out and say, hey, we really can't make good movies, so let's make a really shitty one. So yeah, it kind of works. I mean, I have this thing usually against movies that are intentionally made to be bad, because usually they don't work out. You can tell they're trying too hard to make it bad. It's not funny. They're missing a lot of the beats. This one actually does okay on some of it.
What about you, John?
I kind of like Sharknado. I don't know if I'm gonna sit down and watch 2 and 3, unless I
mean, I think you kind of have to now.
I don't know if I would ever want to watch them alone.
Enough said.
They're definitely movies that you watch with other people.
Yeah, I totally.
To sort of like laugh along at it,
Where's my Jameson? Hold on. All right, keep going.
And it's there are parts of it that I enjoyed, and there are parts of it that I didn't like, but then the parts of it that I didn't like are, they're there because it's intentional.
Yeah, everything about this movie is done in a specific way. All of the bad stuff is on purpose. Mm-hmm. Which there's something to be said for kind of embracing the stupidity of your concept.
Well, if you get hired to write and direct and star in a movie called Sharknado for the Syfy Channel, your best bet is to go full bore on it.
Right.
Right, yeah, I agree.
Because if you're gonna do fucking Sharktopus versus Terracuda, then, what else is there to do?
Yeah. And that would be my complaint, that some of these actors, actually tried to act a few times, and it just doesn't fit in. It doesn't work.
How dare they?
Exactly. You're just harshing this whole buzz here, dude. Come on. It's like they're trying to cry.
I kind of agree with you, Russ.
Yeah. Good.
That's my problem. Good. Yeah. With the amount of times that we've been like, yeah, this movie's good. Fuck you guys, it's bad. There are some things I like about the movie. There are some things I don't like what Russ said, the kind of actors taking themselves too seriously with this insane. I mean, this concept is straight out of Insanity Town. It's about sharks that get sucked up in a tornado and they just start getting dropped on the city.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard to do something intentionally bad. I won a contest with a short story that's called Grandpa in a Box, and it was specifically written to be bad. And it's just sort of a send-off of action movies, and the whole plot goes off the rails, way off the rails. But it was really actually hard to do it and to be believable with it at the same time. Because with Sharknado, we talked about the acting, and then there are also a bunch of extra cutscenes, and they're just kind of throwing those in just because they feel like, oh yeah, bad movies have this. And you can tell it's a little forced. But, ripping a shark in half with a chainsaw, I mean, holy shit, come on. You gotta applaud that.
Lighting a pool on fire because that's how fire works. A pool not lighting it on fire, a pool exploding.
Right.
A pool literally exploding.
Flying a helicopter up to a tornado and dropping bombs into it. Because
in the middle of bad weather.
Right, because if you make... Tornadoes are hot air and cold air coming together to form a tornado. And so if you drop a bomb into it and it explodes and turns all the air warm, the tornado will dissipate.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. That's how it works. And that was one of the lines I think that was kind of delivered right, because it was, the dude just pops around the corner while they're building these bombs to explain that, and then he disappears. And it's totally out of the blue. It makes no fucking sense.
And I like how he doesn't fully say it. Like,
right.
she's like, is this gonna work? And he's like, I don't know, tornadoes are hot air and cold air. And then just walks away.
What happens to his friend?
Which friend? The Australian guy?
Yeah, he just like leave him, we can't go back for him, and he just disappears.
It's because a great white shark grabs his leg and then gets picked up by the hurricane and drags him off.
Right. The tornado's pulling his friend into the sky, and he's obviously somewhere maybe 10 feet away in no wind going, no, stop. And then the tornado sucks him away. Yeah.
That's one thing that, probably the most jarring thing while I watched this movie for me was the weather changes.
Oh my god, that was so jarring.
And I'm sure that was intentional as well, because I can't imagine that it was unintentional.
No, I'm pretty sure it was, because none of the shots were consistent with the weather. They're like, oh, it's a hurricane, and then they show calm seas, and oh, it's a hurricane, and then they show a little rain. I mean, it's like every shot the weather was totally different.
Mm-hmm. When they're driving down the road, it's like hurricane level rain.
Right.
And then they stop to help the kids inside the bus, and they drive up to the top of the bridge, and they get out of the car, and it's sunny and bright out.
Yeah.
And they have one line that's like, oh, the rain's letting up.
Oh, every time we get out of the car, the rain lets up.
I mean, oh, good lord. Sometimes I wonder... I get it, but that really is the worst part of the movie for me. Is those scenes of the exterior of the car... And it's trying to sell that there's weather and lightning and stuff. And then you just see it's like a normal day in LA.
Yeah.
It's really jarring.
Yeah. I think that's the part where they were
difficult to control the weather in LA.
Yeah,
Sure.
but you could at least just make it, sort of.
I think that's the part where they were trying too hard to make it inconsistent and trying too hard to say, "Oh, this is a bad movie. See, none of these exterior scenes match up."
Yeah. Well, no, I can get that. And the second one, I don't know if you guys have seen the second one, but the second one and the third one have like a shitload of celebrity cameos.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah, like Michael Strahan, Al Roker, Will Wheaton, Andy Dick. Yeah, Carrie Ward as Ellen Brody. Trolls.
Wow.
Fucking trolls. I think that this movie, I think that the second one probably goes on to make a more interesting insanity, and it maybe kind of borders on being too campy for its own good. Because this movie, like we said, kind of doesn't go full camp. Because some of the people are taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Like Tara Reid.
Wow.
I'm not a fan.
No, I can't say I was either, but out of all of them, I would say she's the one that couldn't act.
I mean, I don't know if she's ever been able to act.
Right. So she was a good pick for this.
I mean, the thing I remember her from is Van Wilder.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, that's the thing I've seen her in. And she was also in Alone in the Dark, apparently. Which everybody knows how good that movie is.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm glad that this movie is successful, but I just don't... I personally... Syfy made so many of these kinds of movies.
Right.
I mean, like John was saying, they made Terracuda versus Sharknado and, I don't know, Cowzilla versus Megaloid or whatever. But, this one seems to be a success.
And that's, when we were watching and talking about Bubba Hotep, I didn't mention it, but Bruce Campbell has a sort of line that he says in a commentary how it was made for another one of his movies, and it sort of explains why he does sort of B movies like Sharknado is, or like Bubba Hotep is for Bruce Campbell, and it's it makes sense. He said if you take the budget of Spider-Man and you use it to make 100 B movies like Sharknado or My Name is Bruce, and 2 of those 100 movies get successful and become hits for whatever reason, then you've made more money than Spider-Man with the same budget.
Nice. So basically, he's playing the Vegas odds, is what
right.
he's doing.
It's like a shotgun blast of films. You pump out films over and over, as many as possible, and eventually people will like one or two of them just because.
Wow.
And you'll make money.
That makes sense, but I'd be curious if you... Well, I guess it depends on how big one of those things pops, because I don't know if you make as much money as some giant blockbuster. Maybe you do. I mean,
how much money do you think Sharknado's made now?
I don't know. I'd like to know.
I mean, it's made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was the most successful thing that Syfy has ever done.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it's because they just embraced that. They're like, well, okay, we're going to make a shitty movie. Hey, everybody, this is definitely going to be a shitty movie.
And
some of the other ones you can't tell.
The public really latched onto it, too.
Yeah.
And I think you can give some of the credit of this movie to Thunder Levin's writing, because I think he is able to tread the line of going full camp. And to be fair, I'm not really invested in any of the characters in the movie, but at least they're not just like Coolio in a soldier outfit.
Right.
Ian Ziering, he's known for what, 90210? I'm assuming. Is that what he's known for?
Oh, hell, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. He's known for something. I mean, he's like a known person. Yeah, 90210. He was in 90210. That shows how much we know about bad TV from the 90s.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, somebody else was, Jennifer Runyon was in 90210, wasn't she? Yeah,
Jesus.
she was.
I'm sorry. The connections continue.
The connections, they keep coming.
Yeah, you got the truth. So I mentioned that I talked with Thunder Levin, so we'll play that interview, and when we get back, we'll wrap up our talking about Sharknado. What kind of drove you to become a writer for movies?
It's funny. I actually became a writer as a tool to directing. I was always a director first and foremost. And, you come out to Hollywood with your student film under your arm and you ask people, how do I get to be a director? And one of the answers they give you is, well, write a script that people want to buy and then attach yourself to it. And,
right.
And so that's where it started. I didn't even write my own student film. So it took a while for me to really sort of take to the idea of writing. And it's always just been a tool to get to direct. I was supposed to direct Sharknado, the first one. That was part of my deal. And then another script that I'd written that I was supposed to direct was scheduled to shoot at the same time. And I had to choose one. And since I'd already done sort of a tongue-in-cheek monster disaster movie called Mutant Vampire Zombies from the Hood, I figured let me do this other one. It's a sort of a serious, not serious, but it was a straightforward, not tongue-in-cheek science fiction action film. And I got to shoot it in the jungles of Costa Rica for a couple of months. So that seemed like the better choice than trying to do this crazy shark movie in L.A. In the winter on a budget that couldn't possibly support all the grandiose things I had happening in it.
Right.
So yes, writing has basically been a stepping stone, a tool to get to direct. And so it's ironic and a little bit frustrating, I guess, that now people think of me as a writer when that's always sort of been a sideline for me.
Right. So kind of, when you did get to direct, did that feel like, I'm finally getting to do what I want? This feels natural to me. This is what I've always wanted to do. Did you kind of come to that realization, or was it more of a... Yes,
very much so. It took a long time, but then I made this zombie film. And we shot the thing in 12 days, and it was just insane trying to get it done, and there was so much going on, and I was also co-producing it, so I was just sort of overwhelmed, and yet I relished it. It was, it really felt like this is what I was meant to do. I'd been directing for years, I'd done corporate videos, to make a living for a long time. I'd done shorts, I actually was hired to do a feature and then left halfway through over creative differences with the producer. But yes, it's always been my thing, and it's what I love doing. It's about the only thing I can get paid to do that doesn't make me miserable.
Right, gotcha. So, kind of focusing on Sharknado. Obviously, you spoke a little bit about it because you chose another project over it to direct it. When you sat down to write Sharknado. Kind of what mindset were you in at the time? What influences did you draw from to create the script?
Obviously LSD and people always ask me that. They always ask me, what drugs were you taking when you wrote this thing? And I'm like, no, what might be more frightening is I was stone cold sober. Obviously Jaws was a huge influence.
Right.
Both on me as a filmmaker and as a movie fan, and specifically for Sharknado, because I don't think you can make a shark movie without being influenced by Jaws. So there are a lot of Jaws references in the first Sharknado. But basically what I did was I had this crazy concept, which was not mine. Syfy came to me and said, make us a movie called Sharknado. And I said, what do sharks have to do with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization? And they said, no, not Sharknado. Sharknado, a tornado full of sharks. I said,
that might have been a more interesting concept to flesh out.
Well, someday we'll get to that one too. Yeah, right. So I said, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. And as long as I can play it that way, I'm in. Because a lot of these B movies, they're played very serious, very straight. Right. Despite having, crazy titles, and I couldn't see making a serious movie called Sharknado. So once we were all on the same page with the tone, it was a matter of how do we give this insanity structure. So basically what I did was I set up a realistic disaster movie scenario. What would happen if Los Angeles was hit by a major hurricane? Because this is a city in the desert that floods if it rains for half an hour. And the city grinds to a halt. A brief rainstorm in L.A. is like 2 feet of snow on the East Coast. It's just a disaster. So what would happen if we were hit with the torrential rain and storm surge of a hurricane hitting the city? The city would fill up with water. Everything would grind to a halt. Floods would be happening everywhere. Civilization would break down. So what would my hero do if he has to get to his family to get them to safety? And he's a resourceful, prepared guy. His motto is Semper Paratus. I do a bit of, I wouldn't call myself a prepper, but I've been keeping at least one thought on what do I do in a disaster for years.
Right.
So that's where I started with this serious disaster film, and then I added tornadoes filled with sharks. And that, obviously sent it over the top and gave us all the humor in it. But it has to have that reasonable structure to it to begin with to take the audience on the ride from beginning to end, or it would have just been silliness. And as silly as people think it is, the fact that it does have a story that has a beginning, middle, and an end, and it has characters who do have a goal and who grow over the course of the story, even if all of that is in very superficial ways, it allows the audience to stay with it. It gives it enough heart that you're brought into it and get to then revel in the nutsiness.
Right.
So that was my approach.
And that's kind of my question. Obviously, since you brought up that Syfy came to you with the make a movie called Sharknado, was that kind of what did they give you specifics wise to kind of work around? I guess how specific were they with what they wanted you to do?
They had a half page of notes. It was a rough outline. I kept some of it. I got rid of some of it. Changed things. I mean, their story took place in Australia. The hero's name was Baz. So I ended up keeping that name but giving it to a supporting character.
Right.
Because, the hero of a movie called Sharknado has to be named Finn. What else could you call him?
Right.
So I mean, some of the bones of it were there. But the movie you end up seeing is very different from that outline. There were no chainsaws. There was nobody cutting his way out of a shark. There was no city filling up with water. So I mean, most of that came from me. And it's been that way on each of the sequels too. Is that we end up we start off with an initial outline, and by the time we're actually making the movie, almost none of it exists, and we've changed it completely.
Right.
Now, on the sequels, I've written the outline. For the second one, I wrote the outline from the start, and then it changed, and it changed, and it changed. On the third one of the development execs at the Asylum, the production company that makes these things, had written an outline, and it was actually sort of a series of action pieces. It wasn't so much a story. And so then Anthony Ferrante, the director, and I, we got together and we came up with, okay, how can we keep a lot of these things that they're saying they want to see and build a story around it? And we came up with this story about Finn and his father reconciling after years and years. But then even that changed a lot, because in our initial outline, it was all about that. And now the father plays a smaller part. He's really only in the last third of the movie. So it's interesting how these things evolve over time. The second and the third one really continue to change over the process. The first one, I changed it a lot from their original notes, but then once my detailed outline was in place, there really wasn't much change. Nobody was really, at that point, everybody thought, oh, this is just a dumb little crazy movie.
Right.
Obviously, nobody knew what it was going to become, and so I was pretty much left to my own devices to write that one. Then the second and the third one, after it became this big deal, everybody had to put their 2 cents in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been more of an evolving process on the sequels even.
So how long did it take you from when you sat down to write it to finish? How long was that process for you to write the initial script for the first film?
We actually had a fairly loose schedule on the first one, and that was the only time that happened. I've been basically under the gun on both the sequels, but the first one, I must have had. I think I wrote it in about a month once my detailed outline was approved.
Right.
I think I wrote the script in about a month. The whole process, and then there was only really one set of revisions. The whole process was probably less than 3 months. Somewhere between 2 and 3 months, I guess.
And what's it like working with the Syfy channel and Asylum on films? Because obviously, Syfy to me feels like they put out a lot of these films.
Not as many as they used to.
Yeah, that's true. But they put out a lot of these films trying to find the one that's gonna kind of make it big, which obviously Sharknado did.
Right.
In spades. So what is it like working with Syfy?
Well, it's interesting in that I don't really work with Syfy much. It's mostly done through the Asylum, and that, to be honest, that's one of the that's an issue that I feel like sort of impedes the process a little bit. Is that as a writer, you don't really get to talk to the people at Syfy who are giving notes. Syfy gives notes to the Asylum. The Asylum gives notes to me.
Right.
So that's sometimes you're playing a game of post office there, and by the time the message gets to you, it's not really what was intended. So that kind of slows down the process a little bit. The Asylum is a crazy place. They named their company properly, and the development process can be kind of wild and woolly, and all sorts of crazy ideas will get thrown around, and it's kind of your job as the writer to sift through what makes sense and resist the things that don't make sense until you're told, look, do this or we'll find somebody else to do it.
Right.
But as silly as it sounds when we're talking about something as silly as Sharknado, that you are always, fighting for the artistic integrity of the piece. Whether that artistic integrity is tongue-in-cheek or not, you want the work to be consistent unto itself. The characters can't behave in ways that the characters wouldn't. So sometimes ideas get thrown into the pot that's like, well, that's an interesting idea, but this character would not do that. Now we can invent a new character to do that.
Right.
Or we can not do that thing, but this character wouldn't do that. And sometimes, you just have to stand up to that. And as the phenomenon has grown, there has been more and more of that you have to deal with. And then, of course, there's a question of cameos, which has become a big deal now in the sequels, and product placement, which has become a big deal now in the sequels. And how are we going to work these things in, these celebrities that they get, these products that have to be endorsed? How do we work those things in and not have them take over the story? How do they support the story rather than become the point of the movie? So that's been another interesting challenge. But at the end of the day, as long as we're entertaining the audience, that's really all that matters. And I think we have done that so far. And I think when the third one comes out in July, I think and hope we will have done so again.
Yeah. So you mentioned kind of not getting to work with Syfy directly, and the Asylum was kind of a middleman of sorts.
Right.
I'm trying to think how to word this question. When Syfy had this idea for Sharknado, which is kind of what you've told me is they kind of approached you with it, did they go through the Asylum first? Did the Asylum recommended you?
It's actually an interesting story because Syfy had this title, Sharknado,
right?
Which actually came from a Leprechaun movie that Anthony Ferrante had written. So he and his writing partner on that project actually deserved the credit for the word Sharknado. It was just a throwaway line of dialogue in that film. They were talking, a disaster was hitting this little town with leprechauns, I guess, and they were talking about some other town, and it was something like, I hope we don't go the way of that other town they never recovered after the Sharknado. And it was just a throwaway gag.
Right.
And then Syfy, I guess that stuck in somebody's mind, and they said, hey, we should do a movie called Sharknado. What was that story that was just mentioned here? And so that was percolating at Syfy. At the same time, the Asylum was developing a movie called Sharkstorm, which was going to be a straightforward movie about sharks attacking during a storm, basically. And it was not tongue-in-cheek. And they came to me. I had done this movie called American Warships for Asylum. I'd written and directed it. And it had gone very well, and everybody at the Asylum was very happy with it. It was one of their biggest, and I guess really well-done productions to that point. And so they were on me for what do I want to do next. And there was this giant monster movie on their slate called Atlantic Rim, which was obviously a knockoff of Pacific Rim. And I had always loved the Godzilla movies, so I was thinking about that. And then I was thinking about, I was really getting into Game of Thrones, and I was thinking that I wanted to do a movie where I could create a whole world and, complete with its own mythology and everything. And then they came to me and they said, look, we want you to do this movie called Sharkstorm. And it was like, oh, Sharkstorm, haven't we seen that a million times already? I mean, Deep Blue Sea, and there have been so many shark movies. What's the point? And so I turned it down. And in the meantime, I started working on Atlantic Rim, doing a story outline for that. But I really had this idea in the back of my head about creating this whole world. And finally, I had done the treatment for Atlantic Rim, and I went in and I said, look, actually now I'm getting confused on the order of it. I guess that was still in the back of my head, was this science fiction movie where I was creating this whole world. And they came back to me like a month later. I had been working on the story treatment for Atlantic Rim, and they came back to me and they said, look, we know you're working on Atlantic Rim, but what we really want you to do is a Sharkstorm, only it's not called Sharkstorm anymore. And apparently what had happened is that they had their bi-monthly or quarterly meeting or whatever it is. They have regular meetings with the guys at Syfy. And they had pitched them this Sharkstorm idea. And the guys at Syfy had said, well, we're developing a film called Sharknado. Let's combine them. And so Sharkstorm became Sharknado, and it went from being this straightforward sharks in a storm movie to being this tongue-in-cheek, insane tornado full of sharks. And they came back to me and said, look, what we really want you to do is Sharknado. And so Atlantic Rim got put on hold, and I wrote Sharknado. And then when it was done, and I realized that it was really a $100 million disaster film to do it properly, I started sort of wondering how on earth am I going to pull this off on, less than $1 million budget.
Right.
And at the same time, I had this idea in my head. I'd been watching Game of Thrones. I'd really been getting into it. And I was like, I want to create a whole world. But I want to do it in such a way that it won't look cheesy and crappy despite being on a really low budget. And I went in and I told the development guy this. And he said, well, it just so happens we need to do a film, and it was actually going to be a knockoff of After Earth. But I didn't know that. I hadn't even heard of After Earth at that point, and they didn't tell me it was After Earth. They just said, we need a movie based on this one sentence. A group of refugees from Earth have to survive on a hostile planet. And I was like, yes, that's it. I'll do that movie. And I'll get to create this whole alien world, and I'll shoot it in the tropics somewhere so I won't be cold, because when I'd done American Warships, even though it was in North Carolina, it had been freezing cold. We shot in the middle of the winter. And so I came up with this idea called AE, and that's all it was called at that point. It was a science fiction film about these refugees from Earth. Earth was the victim of an alien invasion, but the alien invasion was only going to be the opening scene. The rest of the movie was going to be these refugees from Earth surviving on this alien planet and fighting their way through the jungle against creatures, and then it started to turn out that maybe they were actually on Earth and it was the far future, and how had the life on Earth evolved, and were there still humans there, and what had they turned into? And so it was kind of this highbrow science fiction idea. What would humanity become from, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution compared to today's human beings, and what would happen when they met? And would there still be aliens from the original invasion? And what would the flora and fauna of the world be? And of course, because it was an asylum film, a lot of the highbrow stuff had to be dumbed down a little bit, because they wanted to concentrate on the action. They wouldn't let me do the flashback sequences that I wanted to the hero's life before the invasion on Earth with his wife and how his family was killed, and it became much more straightforward. But it was still the core of the story I wanted, and I got to build this whole world. And I designed it from the start to be done on a modest budget, so we weren't trying, we weren't overreaching. We weren't trying to do stuff that there was no way we could do well. And I'm actually pretty happy with that film. And I got to spend 2 months in the jungles of Costa Rica, which was a great adventure. And then I came back, and I was in the editing room one day, and this guy taps me on my shoulder, and he says, "I want to punch you," which is an odd way for someone to introduce themselves, I thought. And I said, "Why?" And he said, "I directed Sharknado." And I went, "Oh, yeah, I understand that."
Right.
And, from that moment on, we became very good friends. And we Anthony and I sort of became war buddies. We bonded under fire of the whole Sharknado phenomena, and have worked together pretty closely on both of the sequels. And I've completely forgotten what your question was now.
No, I mean, that was just kind of, what was it like, working with them? I'm kind of curious, so once the script was written, it sounds like you weren't involved with the film post that, because you were working on another film.
Right. No, Sharknado, it was interesting. There was one round of notes from Syfy. First there was a round of notes from the Asylum, and I did those. And then there was a round of notes from Syfy, and I did those. And then the script just sat for several months because they weren't going to be shooting it. This was in the late summer, I guess, of 2012, and they weren't going to be shooting it until January. And so the script just sat, and they had allowed all this time because usually, from the stories I've heard, the development process with Syfy takes a long time. When I was doing the American Warships film, and I was talking to my line producer, who was also involved in a movie that was going to be done as a co-production with Syfy. American Warships was a straight Asylum production, and he said, "Yeah, you don't want to." These Syfy co-productions, they take forever to go through the process because they're all the different executives at Syfy who have to approve, and they all have different ideas. And you got to, make everybody happy, plus all the guys at the Asylum. So it takes a really long time. And he said he had been working on this other Syfy film for nearly 2 years, and they still hadn't shot it yet.
Wow.
So when they brought Sharknado to me, one of the parts of my deal was that I wanted to be paid when I turned in the script, basically.
More or less up front.
But basically, there was a payment up front, there was a payment when I turned in the first draft, and there was a payment when I turned in the second draft. But basically, 95% of my pay was not contingent on Syfy's approval. It was like the last $500 of my fee would come after when the film went into production. So basically, my work was done. Everybody liked the script. Nobody knew how it was going to be made because it was clearly a $100 million film.
Right.
But everybody was happy for it, and we were all just sort of ignoring this elephant in the room, which was how on earth can we produce this on this kind of budget? And, I was just sort of whistling and walking away because I realized that I wasn't going to be the one doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know, I was already starting pre-production on AE. I hadn't gone to Costa Rica yet, but I was just starting pre-production on AE, and they finally came to me and they said, "Look, this thing's going to be shot in a month, and there's no way it can be shot like this. We need you to reduce the production requirements a bit." So I did another pass through the script, and I cut some stuff out, and I made some stuff, a bit less ambitious. And I tried to rework things so that we didn't really need to see all of Los Angeles filling up with water.
Right.
And certain things could be faked a bit better. And I handed it off, and I knew what I'd written. Maybe I'd brought it down from a $100 million film to a $60 million film, but there was still no way. But I went off to the jungle to make my movie, and I left it in their hands. And then Anthony had to do his own revisions to get around how am I actually going to make this. And the first 20, 25 minutes of that film changed quite a bit. Now, I do owe him a debt in that he kept as much of my material as possible. And even when he was changing things, he kept the characters doing what I had them doing. They remained the same characters, but maybe the circumstance was a bit different. There's that one shot in the first movie where the waves are breaking over the pier in the beginning where Finn's bar is. And he's like, all right, we have to get out of here. And, one shark comes crashing through the window. Well, in my script, the whole bar gets washed away, and the waves are washing over the bar, and sharks are swimming around them, and they're struggling to get out of the water. And so he vastly simplified that to one effect shot with a wave breaking over the bar, and one effect shot of a shark coming flying through the window. So it was changes like that. From about a third of the way through the movie, it then pretty much starts to be closer to what I'd written. And then the last act, although I had an airplane, not a helicopter, the last act is pretty much exactly as I wrote it.
So, kind of speaking of, the film specifically, not just the script you wrote. When you wrote the script, did you have anyone in mind for the roles of Finn and April, or was that just kind of, they're probably going to cast whoever they want, it doesn't really matter? What I've said in interviews before is the way I wrote Finn is I basically just said, put myself in that situation and said, what would I do? Right.
In this, if this insanity were happening to me. And because I'd really written it that way, I didn't have anyone in particular in mind, other than a young Harrison Ford, which obviously doesn't exist, and we couldn't have afforded him even if he was still in his 30s or 40s.
Right. Maybe pre, everything. Pre-American Graffiti Harrison Ford.
Well, no, not even. Indiana Jones is what I was thinking.
Oh, gotcha. Carpenter Harrison Ford.
Yes, Carpenter Harrison Ford. As far as April, I'd written that part for an actress who was in American Warships whose name was April. So I saw her in that part. And Nova I'd written for another actress who was in American Warships, Johanna Watts. And so I didn't really see any celebrities. I wasn't thinking that way because I hadn't gotten to the point where I was going to have to start casting it. I'd already decided that I wasn't directing it before we ever got to that point. So no, I had no idea who they were going to put in it. I only knew Ian Ziering from 90210. I had no idea how he'd aged. I had no idea that, he'd become sort of this action hero type. And so he was a revelation to me when I saw the film for the first time. I was like, yeah, this was an unlikely choice, but it turned out really well.
Yeah, it's kind of revitalized his career along with Tara Reid's career.
Yeah, absolutely. Tara had always sort of maintained her celebrity status. I don't know if it was really clear why, what she was famous for at a certain point.
I would assume it would be American Pie.
Well, it was American Pie.
And Van Wilder.
But that had been years ago.
Right.
But whereas Ian was pretty much out of the spotlight. So it was interesting. I actually, you know what? I'm wrong. I did have one celebrity suggestion for April. I had thought of Elizabeth Shue. She was my choice for April. I'd forgotten that. I thought she would have been interesting. See, when I wrote the script, April's character was not as bitchy as Anthony and Tara ended up playing her. And so Finn's attachment to her was a bit more obvious. The relationship I had set up in my script was more of he had very much disappointed her, and they had divorced, but she was angry at him. She felt like she couldn't count on him. He wasn't reliable. He was just a surf bum, but there were still feelings there, and whatever had brought them together, back in the past was still present. And so my script focused more on that dynamic about bringing them back together. And part of it, as I've mentioned, is in other interviews, is that I had recently gone through a breakup, and part of that script was supposed to be sort of a love letter to my ex. And the way it ended up being played, it doesn't really come off that way.
Right.
So I very much wanted her to read the script before she saw the movie. But yeah, actually, Elizabeth Shue was the one I had thought of for that part.
And so once you turned the script in, was it kind of, it sounds like it was from your end, just kind of hands off after kind of you did all the notes, and everything that they asked you to do, because you obviously went and worked on AE and didn't.
It was completely hands off, and that was, I sort of had to go into the jungle in Costa Rica to get away from it, because if I had been shooting a movie in town, they still probably would have been on me for rewrites when they realized I couldn't possibly do what I'd written. And so being sort of unreachable and out in the jungle, in a way it worked to my advantage because I didn't have to deal with that a lot. And I always say now, I think everything worked out the way it was supposed to be. If I had made Sharknado, and Anthony probably doesn't like to hear this, but he said the script reads like it was written by an 11-year-old, so I feel like I'm okay in saying this. I feel like if I had made Sharknado, it would have been a better film, but it wouldn't have been nearly as successful. Part of what endeared people to it was its own shortcomings, I think. It sort of was the little movie that could, and people, I think, cheered it on and made fun of it all at the same time. And I think everything worked out the way it was supposed to on that first one. And then on the second and the third, I was much more involved. I stayed with it from beginning to end. I was on set for all of the second movie and for, 2/3 of this third one. And it's been a great collaborative process working with Anthony on these sequels. But yeah, the first one, after a certain point, I was just hands off and going to make my other movie.
Right. So when you saw the finished product, what, when you kind of walked out or, were done watching it, what was kind of your immediate reaction to it?
Well, it was interesting because I had never seen it. Anthony didn't want me to see it. And it's funny because we were sharing an editing suite. And so I kept sort of looking over my shoulder through the glass partition trying to get a look and see what he'd done with my words. But he didn't want to show it to me until it was finished. And then I guess I could have seen it, in the month before it aired because it was done, I guess, a month before it actually aired. But I don't know, I was busy and somehow I never saw it. So I watched it for the first time along with the rest of America, the night it premiered. And the first 20, 30 minutes, I was watching going, wait a minute, that's not what I wrote. Wait a minute, that's not the way that's supposed to happen. And then it started to get more in line with what I'd written. And at the same time, Twitter was, losing its mind. And so that started to become part of the experience, was seeing what was going on Twitter and trying to get an occasional word in. Because, we were supposed to be doing a live tweet. And I'd done one on American warships for the Syfy premiere. And, there was maybe 100 people who were tweeting. And they'd ask an occasional question or they'd make some comment and, we'd respond to it. And that was all there was to it. But then with Sharknado, all of a sudden, you'd type a comment or a response to a question and you'd look down and 500 more tweets had come in. And it was just insane. There was no way to get into the conversation. It's like, what is going on here? And by the end of the broadcast, I was kind of in shock. And I was just sitting home alone watching this thing. And then the emails and the calls for interviews started coming in. And the calls and the emails of congratulations, because it's in the space of 2 hours it had become this phenomenon. And nobody could really believe what was happening, And by that weekend I was shooting a segment for Good Morning America, and I'd been interviewed for the Today Show in Australia and all this crazy stuff. And it was just amazing and wonderful. But the experience of watching the movie, like I said, after that first 20 or 30 minutes, where it got back to closer to what I'd written, and B, the Twitter phenomena was becoming this thing, it wasn't just watching the movie. It was a whole sort of out-of-body experience.
Right.
And I guess I would have had a different perception of it if I had seen it at a private screening before it aired. And then I would have seen the production shortfalls, and I would have seen all the things that weren't the way I had intended them, and I probably would have had a different experience of the movie. So I'm glad I saw it the way I did. I'm glad I got to experience it the way the audience did, because it became magical, and I think it would not have been quite like that if I'd seen it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because as a writer, you see a finished movie, and if you weren't involved in the production, you don't see all the compromises they had to make.
Right.
When you're on the set, and one of the reasons I wanted to be on the set for both of the sequels is that when I saw the finished movie, I wanted to understand why things had happened the way they did, if they were different from the way I'd intended. And I wanted to be there so that when compromises had to be made, when changes had to be made, I could be part of that conversation. Because there were things in the first movie that I wish could have been handled differently. But again, it all worked out for the best, so it doesn't bother me too much.
Right. So what scene or specific, thing in the first film are you most proud of that made it onto the screen? The iconic moment of him diving into the shark, cutting his way out, and then reaching back in, and it's actually the same shark that Nova was swallowed by, and pulling her out. I mean, that's almost word for word and shot for shot the way I envisioned it. And I knew when I wrote that if they shot it the way I saw it, and if it was allowed to stay in the movie, because there was some question about that, that people would be talking about that. So that's certainly the moment I was proudest of. And you spoke of this kind of magical quality that the film had. What in your mind, has drawn people so kind of fervently to Sharknado versus, say, some of the other films that Syfy has, aired?
Yeah. I think if any of us had absolutely knew the answer to that, we'd be rich.
It would have made it already. It would have existed 10 years ago.
Yeah. I think there were a variety of factors. There's no one thing you can point to. I think the main element is that it was the first one of these movies with the crazy mashup titles that delivered on the sense of fun that the title implied.
Right. It didn't take itself seriously.
Well, right. But it took itself just enough seriously.
Right.
What you get with most of these movies is you get one of two things. Either they take themselves deadly seriously, and then they're laughable, and they're just bad, and you can't enjoy them because they can't possibly live up. Playing it straight, they can't possibly live up to what they're selling, sort of, because they end up just being dumb. Or they go the other way, and they play it completely tongue-in-cheek, and they try to make it goofy and ridiculous, and the actors are cracking jokes and rolling their eyes at the camera, and it becomes too self-aware. And so what we did with Sharknado was we tried to walk a very fine line where the characters never broke out of the reality that they were in, the reality of their situation. But the audience knew that the filmmakers were in on the joke. And so they could both laugh at it and laugh with it, instead of just laughing at it and with disdain. Instead of laughing at it with disdain, they could laugh at it, what's the word I'm looking for? They could laugh at it good-naturedly.
Right.
And so everybody got to have fun with it. And that was sort of the whole point from the beginning, was that people should have fun with this movie. And somehow we succeeded. And people have taken it to their hearts, and it's just been wonderful.
I mean, it's the most successful thing that Syfy has had movie-wise, and I can't even remember how long.
Yeah, well, not in how long. It's the most successful thing they've ever had movie-wise.
Yeah, ever.
And I think you'd have to say that it's, other than Battlestar Galactica, it's probably the most successful thing they've ever had.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, and, you know, there are plenty of people out there who don't understand it, and there are plenty of people out there who will make fun of it. I mean, I still occasionally get hate email, not email, tweets. Yesterday somebody said they wished that all the worst things that could possibly happen to someone in life would happen to me. And I don't really understand that.
Seems like a little much.
Yeah, I thought so. But on the other hand, I get thousands of tweets saying how much fun they had with it. And what's interesting is that while adults are taking it with a wink and a nod, kids watch it and take it at face value and are just into the story. And that's, in some ways, that's even more wonderful. Last summer, after Sharknado 2 came out, somebody posted a video. I guess it was a Vine, because it was just a short clip that repeated. It was of their kids playing Sharknado, and there were two young boys, and one of them had a foam chainsaw, and one of them was playing a shark. And they were just pretending Sharknado the way I pretended Godzilla or Star Trek when I was a little kid.
Right.
And it was just the most heartwarming, gratifying thing to see that we had made the kind of impression on some kids that these seminal works had made on me. These things that were the building blocks of my childhood, that we had done something that was affecting kids in the same way. You know, they don't see it as being so bad it's good.
Right.
They're just getting into the adventure of it. And so, you know, it's hard to know how to talk about it sometimes or how to take it because there is this tongue-in-cheek cheesiness to it. And so when people say how much they love it, it's like, okay, are you loving it ironically or are you just getting into it and loving it? You know, and either way is fine. As long as people are enjoying it and having fun with it, I'm happy either way. But, you know, you're never quite sure when an adult says to you how much they love it and how they can't wait and how it's the greatest thing they've ever seen. Well, do they really mean it's the greatest thing they've ever seen? Or
Right.
are they saying that in the same spirit that the movie is in, you know, not taking itself too seriously? And so, okay, then how do I take this compliment? Because either way it's a compliment, and it makes me very happy. But, you know, how do I take it? And, you know, as sort of a side note, the industry, Hollywood, doesn't quite know how to take it. And so one of the things that Anthony and I are dealing with as we try and, you know, get other projects going is that Hollywood doesn't know quite what to make of us. Are we these utter incompetents who somehow lucked into this thing? Or do we really know what we're doing and was this crafted the way it was, you know, to achieve this? But when a little kid comes to me and say they love Sharknado, I know how to take that. There's no question about how they're appreciating it. And so the fact that that is happening and that we've connected with them on a whole different level is really gratifying, and it really makes me happy.
So speaking, because you mentioned, you know, the kids getting into it and you know stuff like that. What is kind of your either favorite monster movie or the one that has had the, you know, biggest influence on your career? Since we are in the middle of our monster movie month, I'm just kind of curious, since you wrote Sharknado, what would be yours?
Interesting. I guess it depends how you define monster movie. Because, you know, without thinking about that, I would just say Godzilla.
Right.
But the truth is that Jaws is a monster movie, and I think Jaws is one of the greatest films ever made. And Alien and Aliens could both be described as monster movies, and they're two of my favorite movies ever. So if you're going to count them as monster movies, I would say Jaws, Alien, and Aliens. And if those don't count as monster movies, then I'd say Godzilla.
I think they all count.
And when I say Godzilla, of course, I don't mean either of the two Hollywood remakes. And I don't really mean the original first movie. I mean the movies I grew up with as a kid, you know, Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra and Monster Zero and all of that.
Right. All of the Japanese monster films just kind of as a whole.
As a whole, yeah.
Yeah. I would consider Jaws and Alien and Aliens monster movies. I mean, I think Jaws is a elevated monster movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jaws is Moby Dick, basically.
Yeah.
And so, you know, yeah, it's an elevated monster movie. Jaws, for me, although I don't count Jaws as my favorite film, it's in my top 10. The thing is, when I'm channel surfing and I land on one of the other films that I would place ahead of Jaws in my personal ranking, you know, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Those are my top 6 movies of all time.
Right.
I land on those when I'm channel surfing, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really need to watch this. I know this movie, and I keep surfing. But when I land on Jaws, there's something about it.
Right.
And I stick with it. Once I see it, I just keep watching. So maybe I need to rethink what my favorite movies are.
I think there's something about Jaws that is it transcends genres in a way.
Yeah.
It's one of those films that when you watch it, you get it because it approaches a very realistic human fear.
Right.
In a somewhat fantastical way.
Well, but only a little. I mean, part of the beauty of everything that went wrong on that movie when they were making it is that it forced Spielberg to make a better movie. It forced him to make a character movie. And that's what makes it transcend the genre, is that it was a movie about real characters in real, experiencing real fear. And so maybe, you know, Star Wars makes me feel better walking out of it. But, you know, those characters are not particularly deep characters. I mean, once you get into Empire, they start getting a bit more fleshed out. But they're cartoon characters, basically. And as happy as it makes you, you know, walking out of that movie, and as much as you want to cheer, it probably doesn't connect with you on the human, this is a real person level, the way Jaws does.
Right.
You know, and after the Indianapolis speech, when you finally get to understand Quint, when he then dies shortly after, you're like, oh no, it's like you've lost somebody you know now.
Right.
And you understand Roy Scheider's character. Even, I mean, I didn't know how to swim when I saw Jaws for the first time. I didn't learn to swim until I was, 26 years old. So I really identified with him. Here's a guy who lives on an island and doesn't know how to swim, whose greatest moment now is going to be out on this boat facing this monster from the deep. It's facing every fear he's ever had. And by the climactic moment, the fact that he's sinking into the water, you know, inch by inch, and this monster is coming at him and is going to eat him. And he is just, in that moment, he is just concentrated on shooting that oxygen tank. Mm-hmm. And he's not thinking about the fact that he's sinking into the water and is going to drown or is going to be eaten. That's just, I don't know, that's just an incredible bit of filmmaking there.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when we pay homage to Jaws in all of these Sharknado movies, I think it's incumbent upon us to acknowledge that film.
Right. I mean, without Jaws, there might not be Sharknado. There probably wouldn't be.
There wouldn't be. No, there's no probably about it. There wouldn't. Yeah. Without Jaws, there wouldn't be a whole genre.
Yeah.
Shark movies became a genre, and without Jaws, that wouldn't have happened.
And you spoke about, you know, Jaws, and I think that the whole issue of the mechanical shark not working, and that forced Spielberg to not be able to show it as much because it wouldn't cooperate. Now that filmmaking technique with monster movies has kind of been aped in a way, you know, because a lot of films, like the new Godzilla film, they purposely don't show the monster for large portions of the film. And I don't think that really works anymore.
Well, it's interesting. I feel sort of two things about that, and I think since you mentioned Jurassic World, I think looking at Jurassic Park and looking at the recent Godzilla film is an interesting dichotomy, an interesting look at this whole approach, and I think both sort of in a way backfired. If you compare Jurassic Park to Jaws, and they're very comparable.
Right.
In fact, they're very similar movies. But
right.
In Jaws, he was limited to a huge extent in what he could do, and it forced him to make this classic movie with characters that we really care for and identify with. And then in Jurassic Park, he could do almost anything he wanted. And while the movie is certainly entertaining and there are real live dinosaurs walking around, it's not nearly what Jaws was. It's not. It doesn't nearly have that human effect on you that Jaws has. It doesn't suck you in the same way. So I would say, the ability to have these monsters do whatever you want has actually, in a way, it's hurt these movies. And so then now they're coming full circle. But to do it with Godzilla was a mistake, because Godzilla was never about the people. The things that made the Godzilla movies great was Godzilla, because he had character.
Right.
And they never bothered with the people. The people were almost irrelevant in Godzilla movies. So to take the Jaws approach and apply it to Godzilla backfired, because you want to see Godzilla, and B, even though they took the approach of, well, we're going to hide the monster and we're going to spend all the time with the humans, they didn't bother to create interesting human characters. That latest Godzilla movie, once they killed the only interesting character in that movie 20 minutes into the movie, right? Bryan Cranston's character is the only character in that whole movie I gave a damn about.
And he's also one of the, I want to say, first or second top-billed actor in the film.
Right. And then he's just gone. And his son's character is so bland and uninteresting. They give him nothing to do. I mean, from an emotional and character standpoint, obviously he does a lot of running and jumping.
One-dimensional,
Yeah, he's cardboard. And so if you're going to take that approach, you got to give us characters. You got to give us Quint. You got to give us Chief Brody. Otherwise, show us the monster.
Right.
It's one or the other. You can't hide the monster and rely on your human characters and then not have interesting human characters. And one of the things about Sharknado, I mean, to bring it around, to me.
Completely full circle, yeah.
Yes. Is that, as ridiculous as it all is, one of the things I've tried to do, one of the things Anthony and I have tried to do as we've made this trilogy, is to never lose sight of the human drama at the core of it. And, people are going to laugh at that because it's this idiotic movie about sharks in a tornado. But what it really is the story of this guy reclaiming his life, rebuilding his family, re-justifying himself as a man. And by the end of the third movie, he will have completed that saga. He will have come full circle. And we have always made sure that despite all the insanity and all the stuff that we're required to do now to manage the Sharknado phenomena, to put in all the elements that seem to be required now, like the cameos and the product placement and the crazy, over-the-top, unbelievable action, and the ridiculousness with sharks, we've tried to keep the heart of it, too. And assuming this third one is successful, Sharknado will continue. And at some point, Anthony and I will have to go on to other things. We can't do only this for the rest of our lives. Right. And the biggest note I would have for whoever comes along after us is to keep the heart, is to remember the humanity in this. Not to make it all about that, because it wouldn't be Sharknado if you made it all about that.
Right.
But to never lose sight of it completely, because that's the heart of it, and I think that's part of what makes it work for people. I don't think just having sharks falling out of the sky would be enough.
Right. And I agree. I think that's why it does work better than a lot of the sci-fi films, or just B monster movies in general, is that it does give you characters to care about, as opposed to they're there to die, or that's the token, good guy, token bad guy.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
And that's a testament to your script.
Thank you.
So, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Is there anything you're working on now you want to talk about or plug before we wrap this up?
There's nothing to plug yet. I'm putting together a TV series concept that we're going to be pitching in the next month or so. And I have high hopes for that. We did a table read of it a couple of weeks ago, and was very happy with the way it went. And so that's hoping to get that sold and on the air. It's called Dive, and it's sort of Sharknado-esque in tone, but of course a completely different story. And that's the main thing I'm working on at the moment. And hopefully that'll be something we can get going for, if not next season, then the following summer season.
Right.
We will see.
And Sharknado 3.
Obviously Sharknado 3, because that's what I feel like I've been plugging that already. But yeah, Sharknado 3 will be out on Syfy July 22nd. We'll, I'm sure we'll have some presence at Comic-Con. And we'll all be live tweeting if we can get a word in edgewise.
Yeah.
And who knows where it will go from here. We haven't even discussed that yet.
Sharknado 4.
Sharknado 4. I have some ideas, and I hear other people have ideas. We'll see. There's lots to discuss.
I'm just waiting for Sharknado 4 on the big screen. I mean, that'll be the...
Well, you see, it would be just my luck that I would decide not to do Sharknado 4, and then it'll become a big budget movie.
Right.
That would be just the way it would happen to me. I would love to see that. I mean, there's a question, of course, if we had all the money to do it right, would it still have the same charm?
Of course.
And who knows what the answer to that is. I mean, obviously, we would love to have that problem. That's a quality problem. But I would have liked to have seen Sharknado 3 on the big screen. I would have liked to have seen Sharknado 2 on the big screen. But it hasn't happened yet. We'll see.
Well, I mean, we'll all be watching Sharknado 3 when it comes out next month. So I know that
next month, July 22nd. Be there.
Thank you to Thunder Levin for sitting down and talking with us about Sharknado. I am curious, John, what did you think of the scene where Nova Clark, who is played by Cassie Serbo, has her little story about why she hates sharks so much?
That is what came to my mind when Russ was talking about people sort of overdoing it.
Yeah.
That scene where they're super emotional, talking about her, her grandfather and his friends getting eaten by sharks while she watched from a life raft.
Not a life raft, a life raft.
And that was like...
That was the way she delivered that line. Like, she didn't know what a fucking life raft is. A life raft.
I just think that the explanation for her scar could have been a little more insane. It could have been like, oh, I lived through a Sharknado once before. Or something like absolutely insane.
That could be pretty interesting, yeah. I mean, it starts happening, she's like, no, it's
not
happening
again.
It's happening again. Yeah, that would be awesome. I like that idea.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, that scar on her leg looks nothing like what a shark scar looks like if a shark bites.
It's just sort of like upside down
couple triangles. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't want to mess up her hotness.
I think what she's trying to say is she got this from a rug burn.
doing what exactly?
Well, Ian Ziering's character is technically separated from his wife.
There's one scene I really fucking like, though.
Yeah.
The intro scene with the shark fisher captain and the Asian dude buying shark fins.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I thought that scene was actually, good.
It made no sense. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't supposed to, obviously. Well, he grabs the money and runs. Like, he's gonna go run and take the money somewhere. He's on a fucking boat in the ocean. How does that make sense?
No, I actually kind of like that first scene.
Yeah.
A little bit, but, to be fair, That's because none of the actors from the rest of the movie are in that scene.
Wow, nice.
So, and I don't know if you guys realize this, and maybe you did, and I think I'm about to blow your mind, John. Do you know who plays the guy who gets killed by the sign?
No, but he looked familiar.
He is the voice of Michelangelo.
What?
Wow.
Yeah. Robbie Wrist. Yeah, he's the voice of Michelangelo in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
What? Very cool. Kill him with a sign.
I know, right? I felt like that scene would have really benefited, and I was talking about this with John earlier, if he goes, Hollywood's going to kill me, and then the sign that smashes him is one of the Hollywood letters.
I mean, it was one of the Hollywood letters.
It was,
you just
wasn't
didn't
it?
get to see it.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I mean,
the storm
that doesn't really count then.
No, I mean, the storm rips the Hollywood sign up and then throws it at them, and they're like Matrix dodging the Hollywood sign, and then the wind goes away, and then he delivers his "Mom always said Hollywood would kill me" line, and then it just like crashes on top of it.
Yeah.
And that scene doesn't make any sense either.
Right.
Why the shark jumps at Ian Ziering only?
Right, and not even only that part, just the Australian guy, Baz.
Yeah.
He's like pulling these kids up with the rope because it's like slung through a pulley on their Humvee or whatever.
Right.
And so he's up there and the two chicks are up there and they're literally pulling children up from shark-infested waters, and one Australian dude is pulling the rope and the two chicks are just like, come on, hurry up, and like, there's never a shot of it almost slipping or anything like that.
Sexism in Hollywood.
Well, also we had to be subjected to a scene of him just pulling children up one by one. Excitement personified.
And
right, but you're totally ignoring the fact that they were sitting in their vehicle right by the fucking bus, and then decided
just, like, opened the door.
Yeah, they could have knocked on a window. I don't know. They decide, well, we need to see if someone's in there. Let's go to the top of the bridge and rappel down.
Because he's Marine?
Because he's a badass dude.
I don't know what he is. I don't think so.
No, he's a surfer.
Yeah, he's a surfer. He's a professional surfer who can time waves. That's his special secret power.
Oh, Semper Paratus is the motto of the U.S. Coast Guard.
Oh, okay.
Congrats, he's still not Marine.
There you go. Yeah, he's still a long way away from being a Marine.
Yeah, this movie is, maybe the other ones are better, but this one's just kind of strange. It's just a strange movie that feels like it wants to be one thing, but some of the actors didn't get the hint. And they're serious.
I mean, I think this movie does a better job at being what it is than other ones I've seen. I mean, Two-Headed Shark Attack tries to do the same thing, and that one's boring as shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of these movies are boring.
And that's what I mean. That Sharknado might not be amazing, but I think it does
No, I mean, I agree. It totally commits to the idea, at least.
And it pulls it off way better than the other ones.
I mean, there is a point in this movie at the end where Ian Ziering jumps through a great white shark.
Yeah.
He jumps holding a chainsaw ahead of him,
right
into its open mouth as it's falling. Then, instead of coming out of the back, he uses the chainsaw to cut through the side. And
well, he's not going to crawl out of a shark's anus. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, I just thought it was going to have.
I'd watch that movie.
What kind of contortionist shit you have to do to pull that off?
I'd watch that movie. Ian Ziering is Shark Anus Man.
Oh, God.
And then he comes out of the side of the shark, and the chick is inside that same shark.
Yeah. That was kind of epic.
But if the chick is inside that shark, the shark's not Megalodon. It's just a normal big shark.
Right, you don't want to lead with your chainsaw.
Right, because he would have shredded her as he went in.
But he didn't know that she was in there.
Right, but what I'm saying is
I think he knew. I think he knew. I think he timed the wave. I think that's what happened. He saw that shark and he started counting, and then they ran all across the fucking city, and then he's like, okay, 3, 2, 1. Yep, that's her. And then he jumped in.
He waited to detonate the truck until until he knew that shark was coming to him.
That's my favorite part of the movie is when he does his like shaka bra the fucking camera before he jumps out of the fucking car. Shaka bra and jumps out of the car like oh my. oh no.
I've got to say, my favorite part is just the very first time he uses the chainsaw on the shark, and it's just flying through the sky at him, and his wife's like, "Oh, look out!" and she kicks the rolling cart over to him with the chainsaw on it. He just like raises it up and slices the incoming shark in two. That was pretty epic. That's a good one to see with a room full of people and everybody's mostly drunk, because the room just like explodes.
I mean, the movie escalates pretty quickly. They're at his bar, which is on Santa Monica Pier at the beginning, and all of a sudden a shark pops through, and Cassie Serbo's character just pulls out a fucking pool cue and stabs it in the head.
Right.
Like, with no warning. She's like, boom. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, this movie gets to it pretty fast.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, it doesn't spend a lot of time trying to tell, like, you know, what's going on.
Right. Because it's nonsensical anyway. So
yeah.
Steve Guttenberg was offered the lead role.
What?
See, I'm telling you, this movie was literally trying to cast somebody that was known, but didn't have much of like a known career now.
Yeah, but now that Sharknado's the thing, Steve Guttenberg apparently regretted it, and so he had agreed to take a role in Syfy original movie coming out this year called Lavalantula.
Oh my god.
Lavalantula.
Which is fire-breathing tarantulas attacking Los Angeles.
And the tagline is, fire burns, lava bites. In a world where man and tarantula coexist, some tarantulas have lava coming out of their butts.
God. I think this is where you go too far, you know? I mean, it's one thing to, like, say, okay, we're not having luck with actually making decent movies, so we're just gonna make some shit, and we're gonna, you know, call it what it is. But then to, like, switch your entire lineup to that? that's saying something about your
that's
product.
Sci-Fi for you.
Well, it's not like anybody thought Sci-Fi Original made good movies before Sharknado came out.
Yeah, I know.
So it's not it's not like switching content style has altered anyone's opinion of Sci-Fi.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to work out for him. I don't think you can keep that up. But maybe they can. I don't know.
My favorite kind of story from the movie is that Ian Ziering had really no interest in doing it, but he needed to qualify for his SAG health insurance.
Wow.
Yo, man. Because it's like
awesome.
his wife was having another kid.
Yeah,
and the kid was on the way. So he's like, I need the health insurance.
Wow.
Oh, man.
That is probably an amazing reason. I mean, because you obviously don't want to do like either a chainsaw or a manicure cesarean. So you definitely want to have health insurance.
And apparently this movie was so good that it killed that guy from Glee. So.
What?
Some actor from Glee, that was like the last tweet he ever tweeted was about this movie.
Oh, okay.
Sharknado. Killing people in and out of movies. Oh, jeez.
Dark. If it was a shark that killed him. Yeah, no.
Right, a shark fell on top of him.
There's that one guy that gets his arm bit off by a shark that just sort of flies past and bites his arm off as it passes.
Yeah. No, that was pretty awesome.
And then a shark lands on him.
Right, it just crushes him. They're like, okay, forget all this eating business. Let's just drop a shark on somebody. That's kind of awesome.
He was like, bam, slams on top of him. Oh shit. Well, Russ, skip it, watch it, and best performance.
I am going to say watch it, but you've got to watch it with friends, not by yourself. You really don't want all the baggage that comes with watching it by yourself. And best performance, I would say Tara Reid, because I think she fit what this movie was trying to do perfectly.
What about you, John?
I
don't even know what to say other than like, you're wrong. You're so unbelievably wrong. The way Tara Reid screams is just...
I know! That's why it works in this movie. She can't act her way out of a paper bag, let alone a shark gullet. I mean, it's perfect.
You guys remember when Tara Reid was like on the red carpet and her like breasts fell out?
No.
Oh. I will be YouTubing or, looking for that, but no, I don't really.
You don't want to. Let's put it that way.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the
John,
warning.
skip it, watch it, best performance.
I'm going to go with watch it. It's definitely a movie that you can watch with friends and hang out. I guess best performance, I'm going to go with John Hurd.
As the drunk guy?
Yeah. As the, curmudgeon-y drunk dude that takes his bar stool with him when they leave the bar and then uses it to beat a shark off of a woman.
Yeah. Oh, those are fake. Sorry, I just did the Google.
Oh my god.
You don't want to. Oh, okay. Let me just do it now.
I totally agree with the call on the drunk guy. He was an awesome character. He died too soon.
Mm-hmm.
R.I.P. in remembrance of George. George. I'm going to say watch it just because it does kind of embrace the insanity of its premise more than, say, Mega Shark versus Crocosaurus or the always popular Sand Sharks. Or Lavalantula, I'm sure.
Does this all have the same writer, or are they using different writers?
No, these are all Syfy Asylum movies.
Okay.
Sharktopus versus Pteracuda. That's the one we need to watch next, John. Pteracuda.
Why would you mix a fish with a flying dinosaur?
Half pterodactyl, half barracuda.
Right, so can it fly, do you think?
Yes, and it's also a barracuda.
So it can fly and swim?
I don't know. We need to watch it and find out.
Can it walk anywhere?
It walks to the store. For best performance, I'm going to go with Jason Smith, because his name has two A's.
Jason?
That's not the way you say his name, is it?
I don't know.
Maybe it's Yasin.
Yasin.
Conan O'Brien is in Sharktopus versus Pteracuda.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yasin Simmons, who plays Baz Hogan, who is essentially just like every Australian stereotype you've ever seen. Really. He's just an Australian stereotype. And his character is pretty interesting, except for when he dies in the most off-screen way. Just gets kind of pulled away. And, there you go. So... Well, like I said at the beginning of the Kulturecast, we are nearing the end of Monster Movie Month. We have one more Kulturecast ahead of us. We have The Mummy and the Relic on Sunday, and we have a guest co-host, Mike White, who has been on our podcast a couple times. He is from the Projection Booth podcast, which I just guest co-hosted. You can check that out on their site. Just search the Projection Booth, and it's about Glengarry Glen Ross, a movie that I really like, and it's a good movie. Surprisingly, I watched a good movie for a Kulturecast or for a podcast. Period. Surprise, surprise.
Good on you.
Yeah, right.
When are those dates?
We'll need to clue you in next time. Russ, is there anything you want to talk about that you're working on now before we wrap this up?
Did we do Tomato Says for Sharktopus?
Oh, no, we didn't.
Oh.
I thought we were going to get away from that there for a second.
Also, pause in the whole thing. Did you also introduce your interview?
Yeah, we already did
Okay,
that.
I didn't remember if that or not. Okay.
I feel like you fell asleep at some point in this interview during this podcast.
I was researching other movies.
Lovely.
Two-headed shark attack.
Oh God. Okay, well let's get back into it. And I'll probably just cut everything up into this point, so we'll just do the tomato says.
Okay.
So now that you've gotten our thoughts, the tomato meter. What do you guys think the tomato meter's at?
I think that's tough to call since it was intentionally made to be bad. Out of 100, I'm gonna say 47.
I will take 51.
82.
Oh, what?
The critic consensus is it's proudly, shamelessly, and gloriously brainless. Sharknado redefines so bad it's good for a new generation.
No, it doesn't. So, if you want to redefine so bad it's good, watch Kung Fury.
Or watch The Room.
Oh, well, yeah, the Room, but that wasn't supposed to be bad. Which is the reason it's so epic. Though. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the reason it's so epic.
You're so funny, Russ. You think of everything.
Oh, yeah. I do. That's just...
Oh, my God. The fucking Room. Oh, man. That's a movie. That is a movie that exists in reality. I was surprised by the Rotten Tomato meter. It's pretty high.
Yeah. No, I'm surprised as well, because you would think there would be enough people that either didn't get it or that just kind of wrote it off, that they wouldn't rate it that high. So, I'm shocked.
Yeah, and so, like I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, this weekend is going to be The Mummy and the Relic, and we have a guest co-host, Mike White, from the Projection Booth podcast, which I just guest co-hosted on. We talked about Glengarry Glen Ross, a good movie, a dramatic movie that, we've watched on Culture Shock before, and I was really excited to get to talk with them about it. And he's going to be guest co-hosting this weekend. And yeah, I'm kind of glad we're getting towards the end of Monster Movie Month. I don't know about you, John.
It's been better than Disaster Movie Month, and better than I expected it to be.
I mean, yeah, we've pretty much watched only good movies.
Yeah, I've kind of enjoyed Monster Movie Month, but it will be nice to switch up to a different style of film next month.
Altogether.
Right.
Did you guys watch any Godzilla? Monster movie?
No, I didn't think we watched Godzilla. I don't think we watched Godzilla.
Should have watched some Godzilla.
Godzilla 1999 for the win. That movie's best Godzilla movie ever made. Matthew Broderick. Jean Reno.
The baby Godzilla's tripping on gumballs?
Oh, that one is the best, actually.
Oh, man. Godzilla. You know what's good? The new Godzilla movie. Just kidding. Just kidding. No, it's not. Oh, that movie. Oh, that movie is so not good.
Yeah, but now next month we get to switch. I mean, it is like a 180. We're going to Westerns next month.
Yep. Sweet. That was John's pick.
Yeah, it was. Pew, pew. Yeah. Pew, pew. Well, hey
bury me at Boot Hill.
What have you got first up for the Westerns?
I don't know yet. We haven't finished the list,
okay,
but I know that we've gotten a fair amount of interviews for next month. And it's some old stuff, some new stuff. Most of it I have never seen. And I know one of the movies we're going to be watching is El Topo, which is supposedly just like absolutely insane. So, but Russ, is there anything you're working on now you would like to talk about?
I've always got something going, but just to keep up with the latest, you can go to www.russlinton.com. I've got a collection of short stories out right now called Empty Quiver, and it's stories set in the Crimson Sun universe, which is kind of this weird superhero universe that I used for my debut novel last year. So go check that out and stop by the website, and I'll keep everyone posted.
What about, is the voting still open for the...
Oh, yeah, thank you. The voting is still open. I was nominated for... It was a reader nomination for some international book award, so somebody overseas actually read my book, which is kind of amazing, because I didn't even know people like in this country read my book. So, yeah. The voting information is on my website. So if you just go there, that first article gives you a link, and you can go vote for me because, I'm awesome.
And I voted for you. And we also shared it on our side.
Yes,
on our end,
yes.
So
thank you very much.
you're welcome. John, what about you?
Well, I got my Twitter at John Lein, Lein 1. Chronicles from the Crypt is cool. Check that out. And Westerns next month. And that's all.
John, always at the waiting.
Always
waiting. Someday you will have something.
Yeah, someday I'll actually have something to talk about when you ask me to plug things.
You can follow me on Twitter at HeelStash. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And like we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier in the Kulturecast, we are going to be working with Alamo Drafthouse. There's actually an interview up on the site about the Alamo Drafthouse here in Omaha. I interviewed Derek Dillon, who is a creative manager over there, and we talked for about a half an hour about what you can expect if you've never been to the Alamo Drafthouse for when it opens later this year. And I'm really looking forward to an Alamo Drafthouse being up here, since most of the movie theaters up here are not so great, unfortunately. Fortunately for the Alamo Drafthouse, unfortunately for everyone else. Like I said, The Mummy and the Relic are this weekend on Sunday. And that should be a good way to close out the month, I think. So make sure to check those out.